Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our regular council meeting for Wednesday, March 18th. It is 6:01 p.m. and I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask council, actually give you my welcome. We had a closed session. I got some motions to come out of it in a minute, but we'll start with our introductory. No. Declarations of conflict of interest. There we go. Yeah, I got my orders mixed up on my screen here. Council, any declarations of conflict of interest relating to tonight's regular council meeting agenda? Seeing none? Very good. Get retrained every time. Okay, very good. Yes, thank you. Wonderful. Yes, we got a full house tonight. No pressure. We're being live streamed on Rogers too tonight, which is lovely. And I lose my agenda where I'm at. So welcome, everybody. I'd like to start with our traditional land acknowledgement. The town of Midland recognizes that it's located on land which is traditional and treaty territory of the Anishinaabeg people, now known as Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Beausoleil First Nation, Rama First Nation, and Georgina Island First Nation. This territory is within Pre-Confederation Treaty 5 and Treaty 16 and included within the Williams Treaties of 1923. The town of Midland recognizes it's located on land which is the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the historic homeland of the Métis, and that our town is home to a large and diverse community of Indigenous people. I'd now like to deliver the following safety message. Should the fire alarm activate, the whole fire department is here. Please exit the room in an orderly fashion and proceed to the evacuation assembly area, which is located in the upper parking lot. You can exit through the main glass doors, make an immediate left and proceed out the front doors or through the secondary exit right back here. Go up the stairs, check the door for heat before opening, and if it's safe, exit onto the second floor, turning right and proceed out the door in front of you. Washrooms are located on the second floor. The elevator is just outside the main entrance. As Midland has a respectful workplace policy, anyone exhibiting violent or harassing behavior will be asked to leave. Members of the audience are to maintain order and quiet and are not to address council except from permission of the chair. We do have a spot for that in our agenda. All cell phones, pagers, and other electronic devices which emit a sound are to be turned off or set to non-audible. No person shall display signs or placards, applaud participants in debate, or engage in conversation, electronic or otherwise, or behave in a way which disrupts the proceeding of council. For anyone requiring a hearing assist device, please advise the clerk, and she will arrange with our IT staff and provide you with said device. Council meetings are recorded on Zoom and are posted to the town's YouTube site. Rogers TV Midland Channel 53 also broadcasts and live streams one regular meeting of council per month tonight, when more than one regular meeting is scheduled. The 2026 broadcast schedule is posted on the town's civic web portal. Council, I'd like to ask you to join me in a moment of silent reflection before we get into tonight's agenda. Thank you. All right, moving on to 6.1, the presentation of long service medals, which is why our fire team is here. And I would like to invite our fire chief to the podium. And we do have at least one dignitary to join us tonight for this presentation. Two dignitaries. Oh, hello, Jill.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, town staff, CAO Bund, and friends and family. It is with great honor that I stand before you this evening to recognize two outstanding members of our community for their dedication, service, and exceptional contribution to public safety. Joining me this evening for this presentation is Honorable Adam Chambers, member of the Federal Parliament for Simcoe North, and Honorable Jill Dunlop, member of Provincial Parliament for Simcoe North and Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response. Thank you both for attending this evening. Our first recipient is Training Officer and Captain Jeff Caldwell. Jeff has served this great community as a firefighter for over 20 years. He started with the town of Midland as a volunteer firefighter in April of 2004. He was hired full-time as an employee for the town of Midland and worked at the then NSSRC and now Bourgeois Center in the Rinks. In February of 2009, Jeff was hired as a full-time firefighter. In 2015, Jeff was promoted to captain. And in 2019, Jeff transitioned into our training division where he serves today. Jeff is married to his lovely wife, Laura, who's a Vaughan firefighter. Jeff and Laura have two beautiful children, son Braden and daughter Addison. And when Jeff and Laura are not at work, they spend most of their time running around with their children at different sporting events. The Canadian government recognizes fire service personnel for their service to the communities with the issuance of a Governor General of Canada's Fire Service Exemplary Service Medal. The medal was created in August of 1985. It honors firefighters who have served and completed 20 years of service, 10 in which have been in the performance of duties involving potential risk. With me this evening is Member of Parliament for Simcoe North, Adam Chambers, representing the Canadian government. And I'll invite MP Chambers to the podium to say a few words.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Chief, members of council. Thank you for having me, and the great crowd we have and the fans of those who are honoring tonight. Welcome. Thank you for being here to support our fire service individuals. It's my pleasure, absolute pleasure to be here. Oftentimes we're stuck in Ottawa and can't make local events, but it's March break, so we happen to be home. So it's just my pleasure to be here on behalf of the federal government, Parliament of Canada, and the Governor General to make our awards here tonight. You've heard of long service, and it's really, a family of service, two individuals serving in their communities for fire, husband and wife, I think is pretty amazing. But to be doing it in a community like Midland for 20 years is very impressive. And I can't help but recognize the time of year we're at, and we're approaching the 1 year of the ice storm and all of the hard work that people had to do when most of us were just trying to figure out how to stay warm. The fire service was out there knocking on people's doors, making sure everyone was safe. And so that's the kind of community spirit and service that we're honoring here tonight. I want to give my appreciation and say thank you to our individuals. Thank you for the chief for inviting me here today. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for your service, your continued service for this community, and for all those that call this place home. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Chambers, for the kind words. Our second recipient this evening is Captain Doug Ward. Captain Doug Ward has served as a firefighter for 25 years. Doug started his firefighting career as a volunteer firefighter in Tiny Township in March of 2003. Doug's also served as a volunteer firefighter in Penetanguishene and Christian Island. Doug was hired in 2009, where he joined our fire department as a full-time firefighter, and he was promoted to captain in 2018. Doug's been married for 20 years to his lovely wife, Melanie, and together they have two beautiful children, Sophie and Grayson. When Doug's not at work, he enjoys spending time with his family and friends in and around Georgian Bay, as well as traveling abroad. Doug's very thankful for the support he's received over the years from his wife and family, and wanted to acknowledge them this evening. He also wanted to thank his co-workers, past and present, for making this journey so far an enjoyable one. The Ontario government recognizes fire service personnel who have served their communities for 25 years and more with the issuance of an Ontario Fire Service Long Service Medal. The medal was created in 1971. It recognizes firefighters who have served their communities for a minimum of 25 years. With me this evening is Member of Provincial Parliament for Simcoe North and Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response, Jill Dunlop, and I'll invite MPP Dunlop to the podium to say a few.
Well, good evening, Your Worship, and great to be here. Thank you, Fire Chiefs, for asking me to attend. I think this is so important because I know not a lot of fire departments do this. I think this is incredible to be celebrating 20 and 25 years of service. So thank you for having me here this evening. And as Adam mentioned, and it's hasn't been that long ago, the 1 year anniversary of the ice storm quickly approaching. So the fire service is here fighting fires for us and being here in our communities, but the also the responsibility they take on as our community emergency management coordinators in the area and all the work that they do to support us in that way. I've known Doug for quite a long time. I worked with Melanie at George College once upon a time, but see Doug in the community, but also see him at Queen's Park when you were there advocating for firefighters and some of the things that we were looking for to ensure that the resources and the supports were there from the province for our firefighters across the province. So congratulations to Jeff and Doug tonight on an incredible accomplishment. And thank you for all the work that you do and Chief and all of the fire department does in our community. It's very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MPP Dunlop. Your worship, as you can see, the long dedication and service that these two members have provided our community is outstanding. They continue to serve, and our municipalities is well protected with men and women, such as the firefighters you see behind you. At this point, I'm going to turn around and ask that we recognize our two recipients with a round of applause. Thank you all. Now I'd ask your worship to come down, and our firefighters will make our way around the horseshoe for some pictures. And I'll ask our MP and MPP to come up as well.
All right, thanks for bearing with us there. We're just getting some photos and the presentations done. It's always a pleasure to reward such long service by our firefighters. So we're at 6.2 in our agenda, which is open forum. And that provides a 2-minute opportunity for the public to speak on any item on the regular agenda. Tonight's a regular agenda, in case it needs to be said. Details regarding the open forum may be found under section 9.5A of our town's procedural bylaw 2022-2. Individuals need to sign the open forum register with the clerk prior to being permitted to speak to council and must agree to follow all the terms set in the town's procedures bylaw. Open forum shall last no longer than 10 minutes in total. As a general practice, the length of time each individual has to address council shall be no longer than 2 minutes and at the discretion of the mayor or chair. So that being said, the red light's on. The mic is there. Anybody like to avail themselves of our open forum? Don't be shy. Come on up. I
Hello.
think there's a little register there to sign. Is it on the podium, Madam Clerk? Yeah, we could just fill that out.
Yeah, this one? Okay, yeah,
Your 2 minutes won't start until you're ready to start.
okay.
Gotta unlock my phone anyway to press
Yeah,
the
I
timer.
already signed it when I came in.
Okay,
So hi, thank you for allowing me to speak with you today. My name's Catherine and I'm a 24-year-old resident of Midland. I'm here tonight to talk about the proposed microtransit hybrid plan. After carefully reading through CSR 2026-31, I do have a few concerns. The microtransit plan sounds good on paper, but I worry for those who primarily use the bus system, such as the elderly or lower income residents. An app or call center creates a digital accessibility barrier, increasing how the digital divide affects vulnerable groups in daily life. The proposed landline solution feels inadequate, as payphones are a thing of the past, and cash payment options are not addressed anywhere within the proposal. Cash access matters as it provides a lifeline for those escaping domestic violence situations, people who cannot afford bank fees, and teenagers who do not yet have a bank account. Additionally, the system raises serious digital privacy concerns. In a world where our data is increasingly being monitored and collected by major corporations, while being dressed up as customizable profiles, it worries me how the system would handle sensitive information such as home addresses, payment details, and disability status. How will the town and the vendor ensure the privacy and digital safety of Midland residents? These concerns, along with others, such as job loss within the public sector, cannot be overlooked when making a choice that impacts our most vulnerable populations. While maintenance issues and the bus system must be addressed, the current net transit expense has been decreasing year over year. Rather than outsourcing to a private vendor whose costs increase annually with no stated exit strategy, I'd encourage the council to consider investing in our existing infrastructure and addressing the stigma that keeps residents from using the system that already works. I urge the council to please deny the proposal until the aforementioned issues can be addressed in full. As a member of Gen Z and a girl who loves technology, I promise the last thing the residents of Midland need is another app taking up our screens. Thank you.
thank you very much. And you're welcome to stay until we get to that portion of our agenda to hear the debate. And I think I know I can speak to a couple of your things, but we're not supposed to do it during this session. So please stay for that and partake. You can hear what we talk about. Anybody next like to avail themselves of a mic? Step on up.
Good evening, Stephanie Grimard. I'm here to speak about the buses that you want to take away from us. The buses are an essential thing for us. As a senior, I have built the foundation in this country for youth to live. I would appreciate if we could get a little bit of respect and have our buses kept on. I don't want to have to phone a little van when I don't want to go shopping and say, I need to go shopping. I want to be able to walk to the corner and take the bus any day I want to go shopping or to go to an appointment. And that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Stephanie. Please stay as well for the conversation later because we'll have some good news for you, I think, based on your comments.
Hi, I'm Henry McTagg. I live in Midland all my life, and I'm here to find out, to catch up how far we've gotten with this new Midland Transit information. I'm not really crazy about it, but I'm here to listen and think about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did you sign the little paper there? We need your name on the registry at the desk. Sorry, it's a formality for these things, but we need them. And while he's filling that out, would anybody else like to avail themselves of this? And thank you, Stephanie. If you could fill out as well.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem at all. Thanks for availing yourself of this. All right, anybody else? Before we get into the meat of the meeting? Mr. Lundy? G'day.
Good evening, council, staff. My name is Rod Lundy, and I'm here to speak about changing the 6 o'clock meeting to 2 o'clock. I would like to see it left at 6 o'clock. Certainly for people that wish to attend, if they're working mums or dads, it gives them an opportunity. And unless there's a pertinent reason why it should be changed, and we're asking the question of the town, something we may not know, we'd like to hear about it, but being at 6 o'clock for the citizens is a easier time. And hopefully you can leave it there and it'll work for all of us. That's it.
Thank you very much. Oh, she should be back in a second. I think she was just shushing the crowd out there.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Yvonne Teets of Bay Street in Midland. I'm speaking on CSR 2026-034, the comprehensive review of the town's procedure bylaw. This is not just a procedural update. It is a fundamental shift in public access, and it sets a dangerous precedent. Two changes stand out immediately: moving council meetings from 6 p.m. to 2 p.m. and eliminating open forum entirely. A 2 p.m. meeting time places council squarely in working hours when most residents cannot attend. Eliminating open forum removes the only direct voice the public has in this room, and I've used it in the last while. These changes do not enhance participation, they restrict it. Now let's talk about the precedent, because this is where this becomes very serious. On December 8th, 2021, this town followed its own notice bylaw, Section 16, when making a much smaller change, shifting meetings by just 1 hour. And we don't have to interpret that standard. It was clearly stated on record on December 8th, 2021, during the town council meeting on YouTube between 17:15 marker to 23:44 marker. past deputy mayor at that time stated, a public meeting is being held on the rules of the proposed procedure bylaw. This meeting is being held in accordance with section 16 of the town's notice bylaw 2009, and the Municipal Act 2001, Section 238-2. The purpose of this meeting is to hear from residents. Council is not making a decision tonight. Staff will report back with recommendation. Then the clerk, Sherry Edgar, confirmed notice of the meeting was posted on the town's website, social media, and in the Midland Mirror. All notice requirements had been met. That is the legal standard. That is the town's own precedent. That is the Municipal Act requirement. You may not be breaking provincial law, but you are breaking your own notice bylaw process, your own 2021 precedent, and your own commitment of transparency. You followed section 16 in 2021. You ignored it in 2026. This harms working taxpayers, parents, commuters, and even future candidates who cannot attend daytime meetings. But today, for a far more significant change, a 4-hour shift and removal of public voice, none of that has happened. No public meeting, no notice, no opportunity for residents to speak. Instead, this is being brought forward for immediate adoption. You're not just changing a bylaw tonight, you're deciding whether your own established process still matters. The staff report claims this bylaw will maintain openness and transparency, enhance public participation, but at the same time, it proposes moving meetings to when the public cannot attend, eliminating open forum entirely. Those statements cannot both be true. You cannot enhance participation by removing it. You cannot claim transparency while bypassing your own notice process. We also need to address what is actually causing long meetings. It is not the 6 p.m. start time. It is not the public. It is not open forum. Meetings run long because of how they are chaired, extended explanations, repeated points, and drawn out discussion. That is a leadership issue, not a structural one. Changing the time will not fix it. Removing public input will not fix it. It simply shifts the burden away from where it belongs and onto the public. And despite no formal consultation, residents are already responding. In just 5 days, over 70 people have signed a petition opposing these changes before the public was even properly informed. That is not low engagement. That is not public indifference. That is a public concern. And it happened before the public was even properly informed. Imagine how many more would have participated if the town had followed its own notice bylaw and held a public meeting. If I may enlighten the CAO, Rhonda Bunn, through you, Mayor, I am directing this next part to the CAO and the clerk. The precedent for public consultation on procedure bylaws was established before you joined the town on July 17, 2023. I need to make you aware that this process is not being followed now. Clerk Sherry Edgar, your office followed section 16 perfectly in 2021. You posted notice, you held a public meeting, you invited residents, you confirmed compliance. So I'm asking both of you on record, why was this meeting not held for CSR 2026-034? Why was no notice posted? Why was the public excluded from a process they were included in back in 2021? And most importantly, will you acknowledge that the town must hold a public meeting before council adopts the new procedure bylaw? Because if you answer this yes, it must be, then CSR 2026-034 cannot be passed tonight. If the answer is no, then the town is telling residents that its own notice bylaw, its own precedent, and its own commitment to transparency no longer matters. So, council, you cannot proceed tonight, not until you follow your own notice bylaw, not until you follow your own precedent, not until you hold a public meeting, just as you did in 2021. Residents deserve the same opportunity to be heard now as they were then. Anything less is a breach of transparency and a breach of your responsibility to the people of Midland. Thank you.
Thank you. I let you go well beyond the 2 minutes, just
I appreciate, I really do
just
appreciate
because
that.
I did. And I also allowed, there is no question and answer, as you know. So calling on the CAO and the clerk to respond to your questions is inappropriate. And, you know, quite frankly, the tone wasn't overly nice either, but whatever. People aren't nice sometimes. But I'm just cautioning that that's not the intention of, this is not the Inquisition line. This is to speak to council, not to staff. Staff work for council. They take direction from us, not from people at the podium. Okay, so if you got a beef with my leadership or whatever, that's fair. I'm fair game. I signed up for it. Alligator skin right here. Don't go after staff. That's just my caution to everybody moving forward who wants to use this forum. I'm not engaging. I'm simply, no, sorry, we're done. We're done. I'm just telling you how this works.
Ask you to leave.
So this is how it works. We're fair game, staff or not. I've seen this unfold in other municipalities like Tiny and not happen in here. So at any rate, that is our open forum. So council, I have number 7 here, declarations of conflict of interest. Do I have any councillors with declarations of conflict of interest relating to tonight's agenda items? Seeing none, if one should arise, please throw your hand up at the right time. For those astute following along, you'll notice we have a vacant seat tonight. That's a notified absence. Councillor Bald is unfortunately not with us this evening. We still have quorum. So I have motions arising from closed meeting discussions. Moved by Councillor Ball, seconded by Deputy Mayor Prost, that further to the confidential correspondence dated February 27th, 2026, received from the Downtown Midland BIA and related discussions during the closed meeting of council on March 18th, 2026. Council herein confirms that Wesley Haynes, congratulations Wesley, be appointed to the Downtown Midland BIA for a term consistent with the term of council. Which is a little bit of time left this year, but anyway, Wes, thanks for stepping up and filling that vacancy. Council, we've had our discussion in camera. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. All right, next, moved by Councillor Patel, seconded by Deputy Mayor Prost, that the contents of regular council meeting with closed session agenda for March 18th, 2026 be approved as amended. Item 10.4.1 CSR 2026-007 new business licensing bylaw, the removal of definition appeal committee. Item 23.1 bylaw 2026-7 new business licensing bylaw, removal of definition appeal committee. Item 10.4.3 CSR 2026-031 Midland on-demand microtransit, additional information provided under the financial impact section of the staff report. And item 10.4.5 CSR 2026-035 election sign bylaw update, additional part 1 Provincial Offences Act set fines to attachments number 2 and 3. And item 23.4 bylaw 2026-12 election sign bylaw, addition of part 1 Provincial Offences Act set fines. For those who don't normally hear me reading this when I'm doing the regular content, it's because some changes were made to the contents that we published a week ahead of time. And we're just being transparent. So in case you're wondering why are these in this thing and I downloaded it last week, that wasn't there or is there, that's because we're just telling you about changes made. So if you wanted to see the new version, please revisit Civic Web and download it. Part of my explanations that take time, I apologize. Council, while you've heard the question, all those in favor? All, and it is carried unanimously. Moved by Councillor Ball, seconded by Councillor East, that the items and related recommendations contained within March 18, 2026 consent agenda as consent items having been considered by council be adopted with the exception of item 10.4.3 CSR 2026-031 Midland on-demand transit, microtransit, which will be considered under section 17 reports and other items withdrawn from the consent agenda for council's consideration, including presentations by consultants regarding a report under consideration. Council, this is your opportunity to speak to any other matters about to be passed under the consent agenda. Do I have any takers? All right, I got a quick one to call out, and I did just mention it. There are now set fines associated with the election sign bylaw. We didn't used to have that. The bylaw guy would just drive around, pull your sign up from wherever you weren't supposed to have it, and you pick it up at the side of the town hall here. I know I did that drive a shame a couple of times and picked mine up, but there wasn't no ability to fine people for doing dumb things. Not suggesting I did a dumb thing, but maybe I did. But in this next election cycle, you need to read the sign bylaw carefully to know where you can place your signs. And if you stray from that, your sign will be missing. You'll have to do the drive of shame, but you'll also have a ticket. So please read that and understand what the bylaw says. And it doesn't tell you where you can put them, it tells you where you can't. So make sure you understand that there is a fine associated with now. That's something new for those of you who don't follow this stuff along closely, and we are coming into silly season, so. That's my only call out on the rest of the consent agenda. Just packed full of good stuff. Right, council, all those in favor? Carried. Oh, did you have something else? Well, we already carried it, but go ahead, fill your boots.
Thank you, Mayor Gordon. I would just like to refer to the council information package of March 2nd to the 6th, where we received the resignation of Susan Turnbull from the Midland Public Library Board. And I'd like to thank Susan for her service and wish her luck in the future. And the other thing, if I may, is the $27 million Simcoe County announcement for the homeless services funding. Hopefully that our mayor and deputy, and that was on the council information package of February 23rd. And I'm confident that the mayor and deputy mayor are trying to direct some of that funding this way. Thank you.
That's the town's pocket, by the way, not my pocket, but yes, always lobbying hard for the town of Midland at county level. All right, moved by Councillor Meredith, seconded by Councillor McDonald, the council resolve in a committee of the whole. All those in favor? Carried. Passing the chair over to Deputy Mayor.
Okay, for people following along, committee of the whole, we're at number 12, public meeting and hearing, we have none. Presentations, we have none. Integrity Commissioner recommendation report, we have none. Deputations and petitions, we have none. 16, committee and local board delegation or memo, we have none. So 17, reports and all other items withdrawn from the consent agenda for council's consideration includes presentations by consultants regarding report under consideration. So we're at 17.1. CSR-2026-034, comprehensive review of the town's procedure bylaw. The staff report CSR-2026-034, comprehensive review of the town's procedure bylaw dated March 18th, 2026 be received, and that the new and updated procedure bylaw for council committees and its members conduct be passed and enacted substantially in the form attached as attachment number 3 to this report. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please, to put this on the floor? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. I was trying to get your attention to ask a request in the change in the agenda to switch the procedural bylaw. I suspect a lengthy discussion, and address the pulled agenda item first. Do I need a motion to that, or can it be done through or does it interest you to do that? Address the microtransit item first.
I think we would need just council's approval. Is council okay with doing that? Show of hands so I know. Councilor Meredith? Okay. All right, we can do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'll go back to that one. All right, so we're at 17.2. CSR-2026-031, Midland On Demand Microtransit. The staff report CSR 2026-31, Midland On Demand Microtransit dated March 18th, 2026 be received, and that council approve the implementation of the hybrid mixed microtransit solution as described in this report as a replacement for the existing transit system with a target launch date of summer 2026, and that council directs staff to complete final contract negotiations with the recommended vendor and delegate the mayor and clerk to execute the contract. So can I have a mover and seconder for that report? Councillor Major and Councillor Patel. Okay, I'll open the floor to any questions or comments from council. Mayor Gordon.
Might as well kick things off, because there are some folks that have asked questions or presented questions, and treat them as if they were asked. So the good news in this report is that originally we were considering having an on-demand transit system only, eliminating the fixed route. And we heard loud and clear from the residents, not only of Midland, but of Pantanguishene, because of course we absorbed the feedback from both the public meetings, that that was too big a change, and that people like the fixed route. They're not necessarily opposed to microtransits, but they don't want to lose the fixed route. So staff heard that loud and clear, and that went into the RFP that went out. And we had several bidders, 7 or 8 or something, like a lot, that were keenly interested in providing a bid. And the one that percolated to the top, and staff can speak to the more detail, offered us a blended solution, or we calling it hybrid. So it's a solution where we keep a fixed route, the big snaking path around town into Pantanguishene, out to the Mental Health Center, through downtown. Oh, we have a graphic on it on our report. The fixed route would remain, but we'd supplement that with microtransit. So the people that can't get to the downtown or the roads where the fixed route currently drives around in loop would be able to call or use the app and have the little microtransit vehicle, the 11-passenger van, pick them up and either bring them to the fixed route if they so desired, or take them directly to their destination directly. So it's a blend of both, where the first thing we were thinking of is like no fixed route anymore. The little bit of I guess the sad part about this is that it can't be the giant buses anymore. Basically the buses are $1 million each. We got 5 of them. One of them is basically a parter. It's for parts. The company went bankrupt. They're not making them anymore. It's not like that's the only company that makes buses in the world, but we'd have to buy new buses from a new vendor. And they're about $1 million, and they take months and months and months of lead time to get. And now there's Trump tariffs and all this other nonsense. These 11-passenger vans are easily procured, driven by drivers with Class G licenses. So our bus drivers that have the Class B license now, and all the medical restrictions and things that go with that, that's no longer a concern for them. They can use their regular Class G license they drive their car with and be drivers for the new system. So it's a smaller vehicle, but out of necessity. So the fixed route is going to remain. So I want to answer that question. That's not going to change. The route itself, I think, is changing a little bit to be a bit more efficient, and probably will continue to change as the community grows and needs change. But what we're looking at approving tonight is a blend of the fixed route with smaller vehicles, for the reasons I mentioned, and the new on-demand microtransit. So that was one of the concerns. The other one we heard was about cash. And, honestly, until today, I didn't know the answer to that, but someone had called me this afternoon expressing concerns, because it's a barrier issue, right? It's a poverty reduction thing. You got to still take cash. I didn't know if the new vendor would accept cash. And so a quick reach out, absolutely they do, for all the reasons that you can imagine why cash is important. We heard several of them tonight at the podium. So the mechanics of, is it the same card we use now, or is it going to be a new card with a new graphic on it? Is it a fob? I don't know what the mechanism is going to be to tap and pay. Could be your phone, could be any number of all these things, but it's going to include cash as well. All of that hasn't been worked out yet, because the vendor, quite frankly, isn't going to go through the weeds of this unless they're picked to be our vendor. And then for the next few months, that'll be their job to work with staff to work out the minutia and figure out how to make this, how it's all going to work with our technology. And then we'll have to host some training sessions in multiple areas of the town, multiple times, where the vendor will be present with our staff to teach and answer questions. And you can try and get into one of these vehicles, I'm sure, and nothing will feel weird about it or new on the day it goes live sometime in the summer. We don't know. Again, I'm going to be vaguish on this. I'm hoping for July, might be August, but we're going to do our best to nail down a date and live to that date, and make sure people have had a chance to get trained and comfortable and have their questions answered and learn the route and where the bus stops are, where they aren't maybe. All of that stuff is going to get answered at public sessions. So that, I think, was did I miss? Oh, the costs, right? I know this isn't supposed to be the back and forth, but this is such a big change to our community. We're gonna wing this a little bit tonight. So again, this is going to change the time of our meeting. I'm sorry, but the cost, we're planning on going live with exactly the same cost. So the price for the ticket is going to remain the same. We're not raising it. I wish we could lower it, but we can't. We're already losing our shirt, but we're gonna keep losing that shirt, but we're doing it. So we're freezing that fare. And the cost of the system, which is, you know, less probably important to you guys because those are big numbers we deal with. The good news is the vendor has said that, you know what, we'll give you that hybrid option, which is fixed route and the on-demand for the same money as just doing on-demand, which I thought was incredible. It's still staggering sums of money, but that's that. So, okay, there's that. Lose the bus drivers. Thank you. That's one we heard about before too. So I did have a conversation with staff again tonight and with the vendor that the bus drivers that work for our town, and by the way, it is Transit Employee Appreciation Day today. So all of the drivers that are an employee will have first right of refusal for jobs. Am I getting to you here? Sorry. This is important for you to hear. This is your question. All of the drivers that work for the town of Midland are going to be offered jobs with the new vendor. If they choose to accept that position, they have first right of refusal. They will be hired and they can move from one day wearing the town of Midland shirt to the next day wearing the whatever the shirt's going to be and probably get a raise. I think they pay more at the other place, honestly. But the point is, unless somebody chooses now is the time to retire, I'm sick of driving buses and I want to take my severance and retire. God bless you. Thank you for your service. We'll give them a plaque and a handshake at the front desk here. But anybody else that wants to keep on working, it's going to be transitioning from one employer to the other. So we're not making anybody unemployed in our community. As a matter of fact, I'm led to believe they're going to need to hire a bunch more drivers. And it's going to be easier to be a driver of the bus, in case any of you guys are interested in the audience, because you only need a Class G license, not a Class B license anymore, which is a lot harder to get and maintain. So that's incorporated into the RFP. So again, if you're wondering why I'm smiling and think this is such a good news story, because it is. But it's change and nobody likes change. And I get that. And until you try it out and on for yourself, you may continue to be resistant, and that's fine. We're never going to make everybody happy, but our job here is to try. So there's my long preamble into this. Councilors, I'm sure, have lots of things to add, but I wanted to make sure the questions that we heard tonight at the mic were addressed right up front, because it's very important. They're important questions. We've heard them before, and the short answer is yes to everything. And hopefully you see this as a positive change forward and at least agree to give it a try with us. It is a pilot. We have to sign up for, I think it's 5 years, because the investment to buy all this equipment and do all this isn't something any sane business would offer us for 1 year and we punch out, because it would just cost too much. So a 5-year pilot, and we'll know very quickly within the first year or so if this is turning out to be a raging success and ridership's increasing, and our costs increase too, by the way, then. But we'll apply to the government for more funding from the gas tax and other rebates to try and keep our costs down. But our goal has always been to expand and to expand the service and to make it more sustainable. It's not sustainable right now, and expansion is beyond us. We don't have $5 million for new buses, or I can't tax people in good faith for that anyway. So we needed to find a solution that kept transit. And that's what always been our goal. Eliminating transit, getting rid of transit has never been part of anything we've ever talked about, although I understand that it's being perceived as that by some people in our community. So I want to be crystal clear about it. Those are my thoughts on it. I might have something more to say later, but I just want to kick things off with answering some of those important questions. And with that, I yield the mic. Thank you.
Councillor East.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so I sit on the Transit Committee. First of all, I wanted to thank staff for not only hearing our wishes, but the residents' wishes. In debating with our Transit Committee, we were really excited to hear that we were able to run this tandem. It is the advice of the Transit Committee to go with the option 2 hybrid solution. I thought it was great that we were able to still keep the perimeter or the transit routes going that we already have, with the ability to expand to go directly to your house. The Transit Committee felt that it was a really promising direction that we're going to go with transit, especially knowing that over the next few years that failing parts on the buses were going to be costing us more than more than we could really handle. So long story short, the transit committee and myself, we fully support the hybrid solution, which is option 2. And we were very, very happy that we could keep the familiarity of our transit routes going. And this was a huge win for everybody. It really is a great story.
Counselor Major.
Deputy Mayor Post. So I got one question. The mayor said about the guys that are working there now. So I'm looking at it this way. So they get their severance or whatever from the town. Then do they still keep at the top of the list to be hired? Because you said, well, if they want to transfer over. Well, if you want to get your severance or finish off at the town and then go drive for them, because why would you give up whatever you have at the town to go over there? Like the way you said it, I don't understand if they keep.
Go ahead.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Major, there is a process that we have to follow by law in severing employees from the town, which we would follow. So that will happen if we sever any type of employee. So they will have that option to still go. We still have to pay. That makes sense.
The only thing I said is, so they go to that new company, does the new company still leave them at the top, or they start at the bottom to apply to go there? Because the way the mayor said it, well, if you don't get your severance at the town, then you are at the top of the list. But I want to know I know they got to go through whatever at the town for their severance, but then does that still put them at the top of the list for the new company?
From a seniority basis, is what you're asking? At the top of the list for the seniority, or top of the list for people being hired? Yes, our understanding is yes, the new vendor would keep them at the top of the list. That's what was part of the RFP, if I understand.
Counselor Ball.
Thank you. I appreciate that staff listened to our residents and had a hybrid option offered. I think that speaks volumes of what they're actually doing here, and they're actually listening to our residents. So I really appreciated that. I think I've had consistent voiced concerns about this transit model, and those for me haven't changed. I still don't see the ability for people with walkers to get on and off of these. I know that there is the wheelchair accessible option, but from the report, it doesn't really seem like it's going to be as easily accessible as just getting on the bus. They're going to have to request a special seat, and they're not going to be able to get on and off this van. And from when I was riding the bus, the only people that were on it, mostly, I would say 90% of those people had a walker. So I don't see this working. I have issues with the cost. I think that we believe it'll save money, and it's going to end up being an OPP issue where we thought that was going to save us money, and it ended up not doing that at all. I think that when speaking with Bradford that implemented this, their ridership tripled, which is great. I think that we will see the same, because currently our current model does not get everybody into town, which is the one thing I do like about the microtransit. I think that comes with a cost though, and that cost is something we're trying to bring down with this model. And I think, what is the point of switching to a microtransit to save money if we're not actually going to save money in the long run? So I think these issues still remain for me. It hasn't done enough to convince me. So I'm still not 100% for this.
Do we have any other questions or comments from council? Is this a different question,
Yeah.
Counselor Major? Okay.
So the new buses, are they going to have a place for bikes if people want to hook their their bike up on when they're on the move around town?
Through you, Deputy Mayor to Councilor Major, yeah, there'll be bike racks and other things like that so that people can still bring those along on their transit trips.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. So I do like this microtransit idea, and we've been discussing it for the past year. As we're all aware that that our current buses are non-operate, like they're non-operable, that they're constantly breaking down. The cost to replace is $1 million per bus, and Midland's share is 2.5 million because we share with Penetang 5 buses. So to replace those buses alone, the cost is 2.5 million. We would have to go out and probably borrow that money and pay interest. This is a straight up solution where we just pay for a service and then we forget about it. So I'm in favor of the microtransit with the hybrid option. My only question to Mr. Sobel is when this is implemented and we do the door-to-door service, when we have a patron is constantly abusing the system where microtransit is called, but they don't show up. It wouldn't be fair, and the rider time, the pickup times would constantly be at the high level rather than be at an optimal level. So would there be a solution to prevent something like this? Thank you.
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Patel, great question. This is definitely a concern and something to consider. And I guess how I'll answer it is we have many different options with the vendor. We can choose to do pre-booked. We can choose to, go the complete opposite end of the spectrum. What I'd say is there's pros and cons to each decision, and well, it might work in some communities, it may not work for ours. So this is something that we narrow in on exactly how we're going to handle this as we get into the engagement and the rollout of the program. We can figure out exactly how we want to do it, what kind of tolerance, staff and council are willing to, put up with this. I've seen 3-strike rules. I've seen fully booked systems. But, those are sometimes on more rural settings, whereas we're a much more smaller area, denser, and there's pros and cons to being fluid and being able to move throughout as rides change. Pre-booking rides, as well, it sounds great. On paper, it actually can lead to more cancellations if you have to book well in advance versus if you book, 20 minutes before you have to go somewhere, you're going there type of thing. So I guess all that to say is we have many options. I wouldn't commit us to anything at the moment. I would let us go through the proper rollout engagement process, find what works for our residents, our stakeholders, and the operation, and ultimately work with the vendor who's the expert in microtransit, their lessons learned and what they've dealt with in other municipalities. So hopefully that answers your question.
No follow-up. Thank you very much for the explanation.
Councillor McDonald and then Councillor Meredith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to start off with a comment. And it's from the Midland Today article on March the 13th regarding the YMCA job fair. And the site manager and co-lead for the YMCA Employment Services quoted or stated, transportation remains one of the biggest barriers faced by job seekers. Our community is really plagued with very unpredictable and unreliable transportation. That is one of the biggest barriers to employment in the Midland, Penetanguishene, Tiny, and Tay areas. So I think we're going to, by having a micro system where they can pre-book their ride to and from work because they don't have a vehicle or not a dependable vehicle, or their partner has their vehicle, this will certainly help address this barrier for job seekers. My two questions are, the walker concern that was brought forward by Councillor Ball, will the transit system be able to host people with walkers? And then I wasn't clear on the hours of operation that we're going to be offering.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor McDonald. I'll start with the hours of operation. That's the easier one. Right now, the vendor they have to follow our current transit hours. So it'll be no change in service hours of what our current transit system is offering. All that the caveat in that is that's subject to change. If we want to expand on that, decrease on that, we can do that at council's direction with the vendor, and they're happy to do so from that standpoint. For the walkers, the vans are accessible. There are wheelchair ramps, things like that. I understand walkers are different. Will they be the same as a 30-foot bus that can drop the air system down on the curb? Not exactly. But what I will say is the drivers will have additional accessible training, and they'll be trained to help accessible users get on and off the bus and whatnot, versus where our current drivers are not doing that. So it's somewhat of a different level of service. I'll say it's a hybrid between the current transit service and the service that Community Reach is offering, and it'll be a much more personal service, I'll call it. You'll be helped in and out if required. One of the neat things with the system is that everybody has the ability to have a profile on, whether it's on the app or online or calling in or however we want to do it. There's many different ways to do it. But you can preset your requirements in there, your accessible needs, if you have limitations, things like that. So when a ride is booked or a driver is dispatched, they'll have all of the restrictions and constraints within the profile already preloaded. So the van that needs to go would already be that there's only 1 or 2 vans that are going there, or drivers with certain skill sets and things like that. So we have the ability to customize it to help kind of give a more personalized service for those types of users if required.
Thank you.
Councillor Meredith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost, and thank you for the members in the audience with the questions and the concerns they had earlier in the open forum. I do like the what my colleagues up here have been saying about the hybrid fixed route and all the boxes that we're ticking right now with the questions like the cash and so forth. So we're basically, the system that we have now in place covers everything that this system is proposing, and much more with the non-fixed routes. So the question, so we tick all the boxes, everything's good. The major change is the transportation of the vehicle, which I'll get to in a second. I want to revert back to budget. So we budgeted for transit in 2026 in our budget. So when we unroll this program, and to Councillor Ball's stated that talking to other townships, that with going door-to-door service, it increased costs. So at what point do we say we're budgeted for this amount of money? And if we exceed that or coming up to that in, let's say, 8 months of the yearly budget, are you coming back to council for more money? Or are we going to alter the program a bit so we stay within budget?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Meredith, that's one of the neat things about this service is we can constantly monitor, we can constantly get data back on efficiencies, what's working, what's not working. And the reason that's great is the hours that are set out in it to meet the service hours will be based on a 12-month service. If we feel that we are having a higher demand, say there's an increase in ridership, which is quite often seen with these types of services, and we need to increase van hours or the number of vans on the road, things like that, that's when I would come back to council and say, look, here's the level of service we're committed to with this vendor right now. We're seeing a demand for increase. That's obviously going to come with the dollar value, and then we would ask for it at that point. But we would never be in a situation where we'd be 8 months into the service and essentially be out of money. We would be forecasting out, and we would obviously need your approval to spend, because it's an increased level of service. That's the way we have to look at it. It's a level of service change, not just a cost overrun per se. So that's ultimately how that would be handled. Does that answer the question?
It does. It's just, it leaves a little bit of question marks there, like, because if we're going to stick to our budgets and I understand this type of with AI and so forth, and the technology and the software, it's supposed to improve the efficiency of the program, and that's great, and I hope that goes well, but there's always that if it doesn't. So if we hit our budgets or come close to our budget in year one, and you gave us a 5-year outlook here in the report, but if for some reason we're 30% above that and you're coming back to council, that's where I kind of the savings look good here right now, and I understand it. It's a service, so that's kind of where I like everything about it. I just want to make sure that we're dialed in on the numbers, and with the provider via as I read in the report, that those are accurate, and 6 months or 8 months or a year or two, where those numbers that you're showing us are not accurate at all. So that's kind of my concern with this. But time will tell, I guess, right? So my other question was about the van. So when we were at AMO, we saw some, I think there was 2 companies there that we saw. We talked extensively with one, and one more of a, I don't know if it was a green van or whatever, but yeah. So I mean, and the to address the walker situation, and this is where I see these vans, they don't really have a good setup for a walker. But the vans that I recall at AMO, they had there was a ramp at the side. You walked in, lots of space. There wasn't 11 seats. There was maybe 6 seats, but there was off to the one side, and then you walked in with a walker. So I'm kind of disappointed in the vans here, and I don't know if via or this provider for the RFP has anything else on the market that can address the walkers. So that's one concern I would have with the vans chosen here. So I'm not sure if that is an option. Where are there other options for walkers? As Councilor Ball stated that when she rode the bus, that she had a lot of riders with walkers.
Sure. Through Deputy Mayor and Council Mayors. I remember the vehicle you're referring to at AMO. It was a pretty slick vehicle, and actually one of the bidders bid with a very similar vehicle. Came with a different package altogether, things, and then ultimately through the evaluation process, it was not selected as the winner. VIA is they're very willing to work with us and change things on the fly. If we got into it and there's a need for a vehicle change of some point, they've made it very clear to me that they're willing to work with us on those changes. We obviously will have to have those conversations. If it's a significant change where we'll call it a different level of service, there may be an impact till we get things going. But they're very willing to work with us. The accessible and the images that are shown in the report, those are stock images. The vehicles are not procured yet. Like, we would have to buy them. So we'll have some say in what style. There's many different types of wheelchair access. There's rear, side, ones that do drop down, auto ramps, manual ramps, things like that. And we'll be very much involved in that process to try to get the best bang for our buck, and get what we need for the people. We may end up with one accessible van that is different than another accessible van, and maybe that's to highlight the needs of select riders, and that van's not on the road all the time, type of thing. So the provider is very willing to work with us. They're just demonstrative purposes only. What's in the report, we have the ability to be flexible. They may not be Fords, they may be different types of vans too. So we have some work to work with. And on your original point about cost, the way I would just like to point out is we consider those contract costs. That's the maximum do not to exceed costs. The vendor will never go past that without our approval. And I will never go past that without council's approval, because that's your authority to spend that from a level service standpoint. So I hope that can help alleviate the concerns of cost overrun mid-year. We wouldn't do that without your approval.
Okay, thank you very much. That's reassuring. And just one other thing that I like about this hybrid system is I had the principal from Georgian Bay Secondary School had reached out for students on the east side of town where the bus route, they're just out of the perimeter, and they had the students in the wintertime, most of them are the ones that have to walk to school. They're not walking up Hugo in a snowstorm or ice, so they don't go to school. So there's a problem with that. So there's some neat things we can do with this system, which I'm really pleased with. And the only other thing before, because this will be my last at the mic here, and I appreciate everything and all the information. Are we allowed to still advertise on these buses like we did with the transit for extra revenue? Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, we'll still have full ability for branding and advertising and whatnot through these buses. And you do bring up a neat point about the high school. But this type of microtransit option starts to then expand our services, work with third parties, like the YMCA, Councilor McDonald mentioned before, that we can have the opportunity to entertain these third party agreements directly through the vendor, free up some capacity hours for them for these services. I know my department last year alone, we had a high school co-op student. The high school paid a taxi to take them there, bring them back every day they came. That's going to cost more than $325 a ride, right? So there are these abilities to start to work with these other corporations and businesses to set up these things and set up these profiles. Same with St. Vincent de Paul and Waypoint and things like that. They're working with them now on these ridership tickets and things like that. We have the abilities to do that, provide the control to an administrator within the organization, and help grow this to beyond what the current system is able to do.
Great. Thank you very much.
CAO Bund, did you have something to add?
Oh, through your worship, I was just going to talk about reserves, that we do have a reserve set aside for transit, and we're just checking here whether increased ridership would potentially give us more grant money as well from the province for our gas tax. But to Mr. Sobel, he answered it very well. I just pulled this forward. But to Mr. Sobel's point, the contract is the contract, and we'd come back with any increase on service because it would be a service change.
Thank you. You have another question, Councillor Ball?
Thank you. Just going back to the severance cost, is that included in the one-time upfront costs, or is that we haven't accounted for that? So I think that should be accounted for in a report that's coming forward, because it is in a cost with removing the current system. We will have to take that into consideration.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, just to confirm, the one-time costs that are in the report are one-time contract costs with the vendors for things like setting up their applications, their driver trainings, procuring the vehicles, things like that. It doesn't consider our human resource related costs.
Yeah, so I won't ask for them. I'm sure that they're a lot. So I already know that we will need to make a service change. So I'm sorry if I confused that this is the current contract. I know that, but just speaking from the other municipalities that have had this, they have had to increase that within the first year. So I'm assuming that will happen in our case as well. I would like to see us explore with our current transit model what we're just discussing, how partnerships with the school, partnerships with YMCA, with something similar to community reach. I think within our current system, that's not something that we can't explore right now. So to me, that's not a driving factor. And I think from doing my research with other municipalities as well, there are so many issues that they still are coming across years into it. So I just think I'm with the cost of having to sever our current contracts, I don't think there is a cost savings. I don't see one at all. So.
Okay, and I think Mayor Gordon has another question. I just wanted to say something quickly that I think this is the hybrid is I think the best solution. And the town of Penetang is 100% on board, and their council voted unanimously for this. So I think it's something that Midland should really consider. Mayor Gordon.
Thanks. I realized I neglected to speak to one of the concerns that was raised about the safety and security of the data in the system. So although we can't, Mitch can speak to that, but I would expect from a governance perspective that any of our SaaS vendors or our software as a solution vendors that we use, and we do many, have to preserve the integrity of their data to the same level that municipalities are held to. Because we, of course, hold all kinds of privileged information about ratepayers. And heck, we were subject of a ransomware attack back in 2018, where everything got encrypted. It was a nightmare. Since then, we've made amazing upgrades, but this stuff can happen to anybody, even when you think you're the most secure. So, Mitch, perhaps you can speak to, I don't know if you want to get into the weeds of SOC 2 and all this stuff, but whatever vendor we would select would obviously have to take great deal of care with people's information, even though it's not personal health information. It's probably kept to the same standards municipalities.
Absolutely. Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Mayor Gordon. Yeah, our vendor is required to absolutely to have the same privacy requirements that we have as a municipality, and they'll go the next step to go as strict as we're willing to go. Mike in our IT department, he would never sign off on a company coming in here that wouldn't meet his requirements as well. So the proposed vendor, they're very secure. The data is always ours. They would never sell it. They would never do anything like that. It's ours, and it's ours even when the contract would end. So it's a great question. It's a valid concern this day and age, but it would be no different than any other vendor that we're already dealing with here at the town of Midland that would have access to similar type information. We can control what info they have and what info they need, and making sure they're only getting the info that they really do need and nothing more, and that it's secure. So hopefully that helps alleviate the concerns.
Well, and I would encourage anyone, including yourself, when we have those public sessions, assuming this passes tonight, to come and ask the vendor those pointed questions directly. And they undoubtedly will have web links and resources to their SOC reports and things that they have to produce to be audited properly and show they have proper controls and whatnot in place. That transit reserve, thank you, Madam CEO, for referring to that, because that is part of the funded cost of the transit solution right now, is dumping whatever it is, 80 or something grand into that reserve, which, we use right now to fix physical things, but it can be used for virtual things like maybe expanding service to Sundays, which we could never justify doing with the big buses. We did 2 transit studies that just showed it was not sustainable. There just wasn't enough ridership. That's why there was no service to Aberdeen, no service to Midland Point. There just wasn't the ridership to justify driving the big half-empty bus around. So that fund, to Councilor Meredith's point, as the data shows that, hey, there's a spike needed in service, maybe we need another van, maybe we need a fancier one of those, I can't say the name of the vendor, but one of those vans. Maybe we want to add some more hours to the pool to maybe run later into the night or early in the morning for those shift workers that need to get to their jobs that are manufacturing, right? And they don't need cars anymore, because that's a huge barrier. I'm so glad that was brought up. All of that can come out of this fund, which means, yes, council has to come back and say, yes, we want to spend money to increase level of service, assuming it feels justified, but we're not finding some reserve that we hadn't planned on. We're actually putting money in the bank to allow to take the blunt that sharp increase that might be presented to us if a ridership skyrockets, which would be a terrible problem to have, wouldn't it? The other thing is reaching every single corner of our community. 18,000 residents in Midland. Very small percentage can actually live around our current fixed routes. So the more I hear, being implored to keep what we have, the more I hear exclusivity. Like, we're supposed to be all about inclusivity and making access barrier-free to our whole community. So it's really privileged to be able to say, just let's keep what we have, because 3/4 of our community can't access it, but I'm happy I can. That we can't look at like that from this council. If we have a way, we have a duty, quite frankly, to extend our services to every tax-paying resident of this community, and even if they're not taxpayers, quite frankly, because look at the kids and stuff like that. So that inequity is something we can and must fix, and this solution does that. So I could never support staying with what we have when we have an option that can provide services to all of our residents instead of just a few of them. So the last part is the oh, that's the safety about the platform and the vendor responsibility. So I just wanted to cover those things because they're really important objections, like, or questions, which, you know, if not treated well, could expose us to liability and embarrassment, all things we don't really want to have in our town. So thanks for the input, council, and all the thoughtful conversation on this. I really appreciate it. I've always been behind this. I'm not just ignoring possibilities of failure or, you know, just looking at things as a rose-colored glasses. I believed this model would work since I first learned about it more than 2 years ago. Staff have been working diligently for several months before it ever came to council to say, hey, is this something that, you know, we want to do? The public input has been great, and it's shaped and changed the direction of our RFP, which is exactly what I think people demand. Like, they want to be heard, and they want their feelings and thoughts and concerns listened to, not just heard. They actually want to see it change some of the outcomes. And I believe we're hitting that mark. Are we getting every single one? No. But we always know we're never going to make everybody happy with every decision we make. That's part of the job. Oh, be forewarned if you're putting your name in. But you got to do your best you can anyway, based on the information you have and the evidence before us. And this vendor that you've picked, although secretly in my heart of hearts, I was hoping it would be this vendor because they're the ones who I used as my sort of case test. I had no input into the RFP process. None of us did. So really glad that it was them, although I was prepared for it to be anybody, whoever gives us the best bang for the buck. But the bottom line is I remain as optimistic about this as a change for our community as I have from the beginning. I'm completely unwavering on my support, and watching Penetanguishine's mayor and council debate this very same thing and seeing them unanimously support it. I truly hope tonight our council unanimously supports this as well. I just don't see any good reason to not, and you know, unless it's just a symbolic no, because this is just good for our community across the board. So thank you.
Okay, council, you have heard the motion. Oh, sorry.
Recorded vote.
Councillor Patel has one more question. I apologize.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. So I have a question for Mr. Sobel, but overall, I mean, I plan to ride this transit when it comes available because I personally don't like driving short distances. I prefer long distance drive. So let's say we have ridership increase, because I'll be one of those riders. And it'll be a good problem to have because more ridership, less cars on the road, less accidents, less potholes. Thank you. And it's better for the environment. Overall, when I was crunching the numbers, moving on to this transit system can potentially save 1% of tax increase during budget. And I know during budget, we're all just concerned about that one thing. It's just, is the tax increase. So my question to Mr. Sobel is, if the ridership increases dramatically and we did not anticipate, how fast can we add buses or these vans to the roads? Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Patel. I think that comes back to the flexibility of the system, and the vendor will always be monitoring. We'll know in advance if the numbers are trending up and if we need to prepare for additional hours of services or additional units. We'll also be able to ride the highs and lows of the demand. We may not have 4 vans on the road all day, every day, but we may have 4 vans in for a peak period, whether it's the noon hour or the morning or evening commute to work. So we'll use the algorithm and the efficiency to work on the demands from that standpoint. The vendor is also obviously willing to scale up as needed and as quickly as they can. They can procure vans quick. They have vans in other areas that could easily be rebranded if we were in a pinch. So there's lots of ability to do that. Obviously, as ridership goes up, costs will go up. There is a small portion of revenue that will go up. And obviously, it won't fully cover it. And I think that comes back to the importance of providing a transit service to the community. They're never profit generating. You know, they're a community service. They don't make money. No community's transit makes money. So if our hours go up because our ridership, say, has taken a 20% increase, I look at that as a good news because we're doing more. We're providing 10,000 more rides than we provided with the previous system. And even if we ended up at the same cost, but our ridership goes up 20%, one could argue that that is a win because we're providing a higher level of service to our community for the same cost as what it is today. So those are all the things to consider in this decision, but great question.
Counselor East.
Through your deputy mayor. When we sit in our transit committee meetings as well, I just wanted to bring forward the thoughts that Tiny shared with me. So Tiny and Tay, they always wanted some sort of transportation as well. And the thing is that they've never saw the value in having buses out there. So Tiny specifically, they sit on our board, but they don't actually have transit. But they're excited to see how we roll this out as well. And in hearing that, I'm sure Tay as well, because I've heard the feedback from Tay and Victoria Harbor residents, they've always wanted some sort of transit system as well. So they're going to be watching how Penetang and Midland roll this out, and excitement to build on their ability to provide movement as well. So I just wanted to share the excitement from Tiny's view. Tay doesn't sit with us, but Tiny does. And yeah, they were very excited about this whole program. It has the potential of reaching much farther than we could ever dream.
Thank you. We've been requested to have a recorded vote. Council, you have heard the motion. Okay. That staff report CSR 2026 31 Midland On Demand Microtransit dated March 18th, 2026 be received, and that council approve the implementation of the hybrid mixed transit solution as described in this report as a replacement to the existing transit system with a target launch date of summer 2026, and that council directs staff to complete final contract negotiations with the recommended vendor and delegate the mayor and clerk to execute the contract.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. Council, you've heard the question. When I call your name, please answer yes or no. Councillor Major?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Prost?
Yes.
Councillor East?
Yes.
Councillor Ball?
No.
Councillor McDonald?
Yes.
Councillor Patel?
Yes.
Councillor Meredith?
Yes.
And Mayor Gordon?
Yes.
The motion is carried 7-1.
Okay, before we go back up to 17.1, I'm going to call a 10-minute bio break. Okay, so welcome back. We've gone to 17.1 CSR 2026 034 comprehensive review of the town's procedure bylaw. The staff report CSR 2026 034 comprehensive review of the town's procedure bylaw dated March 18th, 2026 be received, and that the new and updated procedure bylaw for council committees and its members conduct be passed and enacted substantially in the form attached as attachment 3 in this report. Could I have a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor, please? Councillor East and Councillor Major. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Councillor Ball?
I mean, I'm sure no one's surprised that I'm completely against this, so. Yeah, well, specifically 2 items, obviously. I don't want to remove the open forum. I think we just got started with it. And I don't want to change the time to 2. I think that there has been a lot of public response, as well as I think last meeting we discussed the council increase in pay, and I spoke extensively to that about trying to encourage people from all walks of life and all jobs to be able to come to meetings, to be able to become counselors. I think this is a barrier to that. So I think nobody is surprised that I don't agree with those 2 points. And I think that we have, especially starting at 2, you're going to have special meetings, which we've had a plenty of, start earlier than that. So you're looking at having essentially an entire day off of work to be able to come to a meeting that you maybe were able to swing and work your full-time job beforehand. I don't have much more to say on that. I know everyone knows where I stood on this before I even talked, so.
Councillor Meredith, was that your hand up?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. I'm not against the changes here. I have well, I guess I'm against the open forum. So the open forum, we'll start with that. And to Jamie Lee's point, we just started it. So, speaking with Mayor Gordon earlier today, I mean, I think we have a few more, 2 more meetings before, because we have to kind of stop it during the when we get into the elections prior to. So that's going to come to an end anyways. And I think that for me, prior to being in this seat, I felt that, you know, my voice wasn't heard, and it was you had to do it. You had to go through the process to have your voice heard. But like most people in the town of Midland, they don't look at the agenda a week prior to. As the week progresses and it gets close to the agenda meetings, this is from my experience in the past, they figure out there's something on the agenda that pertains to them, whether it's a business, whether it's could be STRs, could be something. And at that point, it's too late for them to voice their opinion. Or so, but you always have the option to reach out to the council through email prior to the meetings. So this gives you gives it another layer. So I don't mind doing it as long as we stick to the rules, 2 minutes and so forth. And we don't go past that. Now I know that we've had probably 4 open forums right now. So there's some leniency and I don't mind that. So, but as maybe more and more constituents out there, you know, use the open forum, then you know, we can hone down on the rules. So that part of it right now, I'd like to leave, and we're, as I said, there's only a few more meetings with this, and then there's a new council, and if the new council wants to change it, then they could bring it up. You're shaking your head, Deputy Clerk. Do you want to correct me on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to Councillor Meredith. We don't have to remove the open forum due to elections. This was something that was discussed with the county clerks, and with the nomination day May 1st, that could pose a problem. When we met with the county clerks, we were all kind of discussing how to deal with it, because it would give people an opportunity to campaign, which you're not supposed to, should they be running for council. So the idea is that a lot of municipalities that do have the open forum are considering at least putting it on pause, if not removing it, due to the elections, but there is no requirement to do that. That was just something that we had discussed as professionals.
Thank you for that clarification, but I'm all on board with postponing it anyway, like to take it out during the election process for we don't campaign, but that is up to this council to decide. So, but that's where I stand on the open forum. As far as the 2 p.m. Start, so our council, you know, has debated you know, going into midnight, sometimes past midnight. And some of the crucial decisions have been made, you know, after 10 o'clock, 11:30. And at that, anything after 10 o'clock, you're not really clearly, you know, thinking very clearly. So at least I'm not. So, and I like the discussions that we have. They're thorough. You know, maybe some we have to clean that up a little bit, but it's, you know, democracy. It's worked well with this council. No one's you know, hit the point of order button and cut anybody off. Everybody was heard, and through the mayor and the deputy mayor, they let us speak. So for this council, you know, we like to talk, and I think for the most part that every council will be different. Next term, it'll be a different council up here, possibly. Maybe half of us will be gone, maybe all of us will be gone, and maybe they could determine if they want to switch. You know, revert back to 6 or 5 or 4 or leave it at 2 if we choose to leave it at 2. So, you know, and for the amount of meetings we have left, it's not a bad trial for 2 o'clock. But the one issue that I would have with this is that any public forum, any public meeting that needs to be discussed will be, you know, around 6 o'clock. It shouldn't be done through business hours of the public, so they have a chance to speak in front of council. So that's my only drawback with this time change. But they're starting at 2 o'clock. I think we're sharper. Maybe not that we've made bad decisions, but you know, it's or maybe we have, Catherine, but it's taxing, and when you're up at 6:30 and you work all day and you have a long day and you get home at midnight or 12:30, and I don't sleep after a council meeting for a couple hours, and then you got to get up the next day, and then there's staff as well, and you know, they're up. You know, I'm thinking of council, but let's look at staff when they're here late too, right? So, and then they have to get up the next day and come to work, and clearly they won't be sharp. They'll be lagging. So, that's where I stand on this, and we'll not ramble on anymore. We'll be here till midnight again. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to Councillor Meredith. The question about the public meetings for planning matters, obviously, I took that into consideration when preparing the bylaw. And although about almost half of the municipalities in Simcoe County do have their meetings during the day, I've consulted with a lot of their clerks, and nobody has had any pushback as far as public meetings being held at that time. However, given if there was a public meeting, let's just use Midland Bay Landing as an example, that planning staff would know that this is going to be a community-wide interest, and or council does have the ability to call a special meeting of council for 6 o'clock. So we do have that, you do have that flexibility in the procedure bylaw. As you know, we do call a lot of special meetings as well for different public consultations, that type of thing. So that would still be considered. The 2 o'clock would be the firm start for regular meetings of council. And some of the public meetings that we have for planning, as you know, are not, if there's no interest, then, and there's the ability to attend via Zoom. There's the ability to provide comments to planning staff, which would, you know, mark their spot for an appeal. And they have 20 days to do that prior to even the agenda going out, and once the notice of public meeting goes out. So it's my professional opinion that I think as far as public meetings, we would still meet the criteria to allow engagement, and then take it on a case-by-case project that would come up if we needed to call a special meeting, and then that would be a special meeting dedicated for that one planning matter.
Okay, thank you very much. Just and a final comment. I mean, none of us here, I'll speak for myself because I can't speak for anybody else, but we want to be as transparent as possible. And I think this, you know, our council has been transparent throughout this term. And you know what? And we're not trying to hide anything. Everything's, I'm certainly not. And point out whatever we can and find in the, through budget and so forth. So transparency is number one. I campaigned on it, and we still, if I find that there's a question mark here that I feel something, then I'm going to be vocal about it. So, but, credit to the staff. I don't feel that this term, you know, from the outside, and I don't know if you have the feelings of not being transparent, but I can assure you that, we're as transparent as it comes. At least I think we are. But I'm proud of the way we've handled this term up to this point. So I'm okay with the 2 o'clock right now. And if it doesn't work, then we can revert back. It's just one motion and reverting back to 4 or 5 or maybe, or 6. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I forgot to mention, we did reach out to Rogers, and as you know, they've really cut back on the community programming, and during the months that we have 2 council meetings, they only broadcast the 1. So in meeting with them, because I wanted to consult with them with the 2 o'clock change, they've confirmed to us that there would be less conflicts, especially with the town of Penetanguishene, as they meet on Wednesday nights as well. And they would be able to broadcast both meetings if we have 2 in a month. And also, I think there's a little bit of confusion when it comes to a council meeting and a public meeting. Although our council meetings are open to the public, there is no public participation. And in doing some research again for this bylaw, I've noticed that the viewership is higher on the YouTube channel, people watching the meeting after the meeting has occurred. So although it's great to have people in attendance to watch, that's basically all they can do is watch the council meeting. There is no participation unless it is a public meeting. So I just wanted to make that point as well.
Great. Thank you.
Sorry. Are you done? Sorry. Councillor Major.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Post. I really like the open forum. I think we should keep that. It's been pretty enlightening, the ones that have shown up and done their thing. So it's actually free knowledge for us. And I totally support the 2 o'clock start for council. I work full time. I have to get someone to do my job when I'm here, but I find getting home at 11 and I'm like Councillor Meredith, you don't sleep, and the next thing you know, the alarm goes off at 10 after 5, and it's the next day. It's actually the day of council. You can get through the next days. And I think for staff too, the day after the late council meeting is the tough part of it. So open forum, I really enjoy that, and 2 o'clock start. And I just footnote, Collingwood for the last 4 years have had 2 o'clock start. And I talked to one of their counselors this week, and it's seamless, and they're actually quite content having it at 2 o'clock. That's all I got to say.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. I just wanted to comment, and I want to thank our wonderful Madam Clerk for preparing this report. It's pretty comprehensive. It was 119 pages, if I'm not wrong, total, and I got through all of it. Did I understand all of it? That's a second question, but different question. Starting at 2 o'clock, I'm in favor completely with it. Just want to make everyone understand it doesn't take democracy away. As Madame Clark mentioned, the viewership on YouTube is higher after the video is posted than people watching or being in the meeting in person, because sometimes there's topics on there that are related to certain part of the community, which they only want to watch that, and that proves that that is democratic. If they have any questions or concerns, they can always bring it up, and council is here to listen to that and make changes. I mean, once you set a motion and you pass it, doesn't mean it's over. There's always ways to make changes after changes. So in terms of taking away abilities for people to run. I don't believe that's true because public service is a sacrifice. And, that's the sacrifice we have to give in order to serve our community. And also I'm in favor of keeping the open forum. I know there's work to be done, but after I seen the young girl, she's still here, come up and present, I believe we need to continue to keep the open forum, even if there's some negative aspects to it, but I see a positive here, and that was today, and that positive needs to continue. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. As background, I just wanted to remind council that the motion that was brought forward by Deputy Mayor Prost was to try the open forum for 6 months as a pilot. And I gave council my promise that we would try it for 6 months and then I would bring forward my recommendations and my findings. The participation has been extremely low if we look at the percentage of people attending. And the result that I came up with is that residents do have multiple established opportunities to meet with council, with staff. There's deputations, we have written correspondence that can be submitted to be included on an agenda. We have the statutory public meetings, consultation processes, and the established channels are structured, accessible, consistent with consistently used by the community. And that was my reason for saying that we could omit the open forum.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Prost. And as Councillor Patel mentioned, gratitude expressed to the Director of Legislative Services clerk. I know it was a lot of work. It certainly was a lot of work to follow your process on my part. I got a little confused, but you directed me. I have a couple of comments. Well, first of all, one question in regards to the use of recording equipment. I just need clarification. That's 6.9 in your summary sheet. It's amend in addition to this selection. Permits recording with limitations. But when I look, it was eliminated. It was struck out, is it not? Anyway, maybe, yeah. D, individual recording, broadcasting, or streaming is not permitted. So I got confused.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor McDonald. The attachment 1 shows the changes. So in the 2022 bylaw, we did not permit recording. That's why it's struck out. I've struck it out on the original bylaw. And we have now allowed recording of the meetings during a meeting. It was as a result of some current legislation that was brought forward and in consultation with other municipalities. Therefore, we will be allowing recording during a meeting as long as it doesn't interfere with staff, with council, and the proceeding of the meeting. So that is an addition, and it was something that we did not allow in the last bylaw, but now we are allowing it.
Thank you for that clarification. If I could proceed with my comments.
Go ahead.
Where do I start? Okay, I'll start with the open forum of removing it. Well, as the report states, there was low engagement until tonight. So I'm going, this is good. This is a chance for them to address the agenda item. I'm in support of it, of leaving it in, but under 2 conditions. The 2-minute bylaw states 2 minutes. 2 minutes is 2 minutes, not 5. And I think that has to be imposed. And I wonder if we want to consider the number of speakers, or we could be here listening to 22-minute bylaws. That's my first comment. I guess it's a question too.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost, through to Councillor McDonald. The open forum as it stands now in bylaw 2022 does have a 2-minute time limit and also has a 10-minute total time limit. So we would have to, should there be 20 people lined up to speak, again, council could have the opportunity to suspend the rules to allow it, depending on what the, if there is a large crowd that chooses to speak. But we do have that, and that would be something that we could set a timer maybe for 2:00 or for 2 minutes, and someone would just be allowed to speak for 2 minutes, and the total maximum for the open forum would be 10 minutes so that it doesn't add on to our agenda items.
Thank you. The other point that I have is in regards to the change of time from 6 p.m. to 2 p.m. I'm not in favor for that change. And I've expressed this concern of going past 10 o'clock individually and as a group, and I'm going to express it again. So these are through you, Deputy Mayor, to the mayor and all members of the council. Council meetings should not exceed 4 hours if the procedure bylaw is properly followed and enforced. Section 15.7 and 15.8 are clear. Members speak once to a motion and are limited to 5 minutes. Section 15.9 restricts questions to those directly related to the motion under debate. Section 15.11 requires the chair to vacate the chair if taking an active role in a debate. Now, having read that, I realize that sometimes myself, I've spoken once, I've spoken twice, and then something else comes up, and I'm allowed to speak the third time. And I appreciate it. But I also would accept the fact that, no, you've had your say, unless it's something new, we're moving on. Section 9.9 provides structure for public meetings and hearings. Section 9.10 is explicit. During presentations, members may only request clarification. They are not permitted to engage in debate, negotiations, or otherwise further business of the town during that time. 9.11 limits deputation to 10 minutes and clearly states that members may ask questions. We, members of the council, may ask questions of clarification and offer thanks, but not enter into a debate or a discussion of the matter. These provisions are not optional in our bylaw. They are designed to maintain order, fairness, and efficiency. If they are consistently applied at meetings, even those with public hearings, presentations, and deputations, we should not be running beyond 4 hours as a regular occurrence. And that's seems to be regular and not normal. I don't know how many times we've gone past 10 o'clock, but it seems, I feel it's a lot. So keeping in mind the administration duties to be here is lengthy for their day, but when they were hired, that expectation, I'm sure, was presented to them. So changing the start time from 6 to 2 p.m. limits who can realistically serve on council. Many working residents would be excluded from submitting in the race that's coming up. The solution to lengthy meetings is not to move them earlier. It is to follow and enforce the bylaw as written. Respectfully, accountability to our own rules is fundamental to good governance and public practice. The solution is not to start earlier. The solution is to follow our rules that we have already previously adopted.
Okay, I'm going to go next. I haven't spoken. I do support the 2 PM start. I don't think I'm surprised there's pushback because when we sign up for this, we sign up day or night, 24/7, holidays. I answer my phone, and I'm sure all of you do as well. And I do agree that going past 10 o'clock it's not good for anybody. We're tired, we're not thinking clearly. And I mean, 2 PM makes much more sense. The county is at 9 AM in the morning. We could very easily do that as well. I think regardless of whether staff signed up for this or not, they're still going to run late on those days. And it's going to save a lot of staff time if we're not keeping them till 11 or 12 at night, or even 10. So I think there's savings to the taxpayers for that. I don't think it would make a whole lot of difference. I mean, truly, I can't work the day of council and I cannot work the next day because it's too late. But that's my choice. I'm not complaining, but we all do make sacrifices to do what we do. And as far as the 2-minute open forum, it was me who brought this to council to hopefully see some public engagement and give everybody the opportunity to talk. But it didn't take away, it was never meant to take away from calling us, emailing us, asking us to meet for coffee. Because even at that 2 minutes, people can state what they want to state. We can't talk to them about it. We can't get facts. So in the big picture, they're better off contacting us and meeting with us and getting the whole vibe of it, and maybe even try to convince us that, they're right or they have information we don't know, and we're willing to listen. We're absolutely willing to listen. And I was also in favor of keeping it until May 1st, until the most despicable show of disrespect to our staff tonight. I don't ever want to have it in this room again. It's just, that's not how it works. Everything that was said was not true. And I take complete offense, serious offense, that somebody would come into our space and disrespect our staff. So I will not support either one of those. All right, Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I just wanted to request that the option for starting this in the next council term be thought about, as I do understand the sacrifice. I've been making the same sacrifice as everyone up here for the last 3.5 years, but that sacrifice has been with my employer, and that's the expectation of what I have currently. So in 3 weeks' time, to expect that that change will happen, I can tell you that from my employer's standpoint, it will not. And that limits my ability to serve the rest of my term even here. A next term is another issue with another agreement with an employer. I do think it does limit who can run, but it does also limit me being able to sit here in 3 weeks' time. So I request that we take it to the next term of council. I understand we all make the sacrifices. I made it to sit here to begin with, but that's an ongoing commitment I have to this seat and the time that we've had, as well as with my employer. So.
Mayor Gordon.
Thanks. Good conversation about this. I didn't want to lead this one. Choosing to go near the end. So just to let folks know, because if you haven't been keeping count, we've had 43 special meetings of council this term, on top of 44 regular meetings. And all those special meetings of council, with the exception of a couple, happened at 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, 4 in the afternoon. And then we didn't get to home. We literally ate here, had a bathroom break, and then started our 6 o'clock meeting, and often wound up midnight. We have big agendas. We're not a little rural municipality that might have 2 or 3 things. Our agendas are packed. The budget we're dealing with is much larger. We have a large council. I would still argue that it's too big for our municipality, but we've decided that it's going to stay 9. That's 9 voices. And, if you want to lay any blame at the feet of me not holding us to the account of our procedure policy, I own that. I know our procedure policy inside and out. It's a conscious decision. It's my leadership style. It's always been like this, even when I was a counselor. I used to get in trouble for encouraging lots of debate and discussion. It's like a 2 minute, you're done, cut off. That used to really tick me off when I sat over there. And I would use the announcements section inappropriately to try and further conversations and get things going and get spanked for that. So I do encourage a lot of dialogue and conversation. And I would think that's something that members of the community, especially the critical ones, would appreciate, rather than me cutting things off as has happened in this chair in previous terms. But if that's not appreciated, I can easily follow the rules if you'd like in 2 minutes, 2 times, or 5 minutes, 2 times, but I won't. I'm not going to be spiteful. I'm just telling you how absurd it seems to be critical of me as a chair. And I only chair the front end and the back end of the meeting. Most of this, so I'm not throwing Deputy Mayor under the bus, but we are of the same mind. And so is Deputy Mayor Jack Conton. We want debate and discussion. If that means letting someone talk 3 or 4 times, or maybe form their thoughts based on what new input they heard that they didn't come preconceived with, I allow that to happen. Am I breaching our procedural policy? Yeah, I am. If you think that's a bad trait, well, don't put my sign on your lawn, because that's the way I'm going to be next term if I'm back. Because I believe in that dialogue. I would rather us spend an hour debating something and get to some semblance of unanimity on a decision than get through it in 10 minutes mechanically, shut down discourse, and, just so we can get out of here on time. Matter of fact, last term, we tried to get out of here on time to watch the Jays game or whatever. Like councillors would say that, so we wouldn't have to debate because they wanted to go and watch the Leafs. Like they literally said that, go watch the meetings. That drove me wild when we had big decisions on the floor and I wanted to talk about stuff and pick things apart and be a councillor emeritus. He's basically me last term. And I would be shut down, and I vowed I would never run a meeting like that. So, mea culpa, right? So if you want to blame me, big shoulders, bring it on. That's the way I run meetings, and I will continue to run meetings like that until I'm out and my term's done. But I think that has made us better as a council, and I think that's better democracy. And if you don't see that, and I'm looking into the crowd randomly, then I think Yvonne knows I'm not looking randomly in the crowd. But if you don't see that, then we need to have a coffee and talk this through, because I think this is the best council I've ever seen. When I watch other council meetings, and believe me, I'm a lunatic for doing this, I watch other council meetings and I watch the dysfunction and the splits and the vitriol and the integrity commissioner complaints and people dock pay and all the drama that we have not had this term. Like, I would think people would be proud of what we have here. We're a model. Neighboring municipalities in Simcoe County alone suffer from these splits and drama. We don't have that. We have peace. We don't all skip through the daisies together, happy and, all unanimously voting for everything. We don't rubber stamp anything. We have some blazing good debates up here. And that's because either I as chair or deputy mayor as chair allow this stuff to happen. We do it respectfully, 99% of the time. Sometimes it gets a little heated, but we're all humans. But we get to good decision making. But where we start to fall is 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I mean, those are big, heavy lifting agenda items that get pushed to the end of the agenda because that's the way it works. After we started at 2 in the afternoon and now it's 10 p.m., we're making these really big decisions sometimes we start to get giddy. You can see it. The screenshot you chose to share on the petition, when Pink Shirt Day and I'm back doing one of these. I think that was probably like 5 to midnight and I was ready for my jammies. Like we were done, right? The last thing I want to do is even talk about another motion. By moving our business meeting, which is what this is, to business hours, all of these high-priced staff that are around here, executive and C-suites that, as you know, make good money, during the day, they could be sitting at their desk doing their job, not sitting around at council meetings listening to us debate things. And if we need them, we can bring them in, rather than having them sitting here listening to things that have nothing to do with them, wondering if we're ever going to say anything that has anything to do with them. So having a business meeting during business hours makes an abundance of sense to me. And to me, that's the catalyst for the change. Many, many other municipalities in Simcoe County, half of them, have their meetings during the business day. And the world didn't end, democracy didn't die. People still come, and believe me, they do. You can watch their meetings on YouTube, and some of them are wild. Way bigger municipalities than us, like Aurelia, have these meetings during the day. Toronto has them during the day, but so many places have meetings during the day, and the world hasn't ended. Now, if this ends up being like the dumbest decision this council ever made by switching from 6 till 2, this council can change it again. I mean, we don't have a lot of runway left, but we still do. We can change it. It's our policy. If the new council decides after they're elected, you know, that old council are a bunch of idiots, you know, we want to go back to meeting at 6 and we all campaigned on 6, you know, if the majority of the hands raise on the first or second meeting of new council, they can change their own policy to whatever they want. So we're not binding the next council to anything. We're simply saying there's a good reason for this change. It's founded around respecting our staff. It clearly doesn't disrespect the public because public participate in all these other bigger and smaller municipalities that meet during the day. And we're going to try it on for size by implementing it next meeting. If it turns out to be an abject failure, we'll own it and, you know, we can change it back. I don't think it's going to fail, but you never know, right? And new council is not bound by any decisions we make. They're going to get paid what we tell them they're going to get paid, but they don't have to meet when we say they're going to meet or do anything that we put in this policy right now. But the way this works is, in the outgoing term, at this time, the outgoing council makes tweaks and changes to the procedure policy based on best practices of the day and the experiences they've now experienced for the past 3 years, and bakes it into the procedure policy to give the new council, which could be brand new, a kickstart. That brings me to another important point. We had a largely new council here. Like, there was only 2 of us that came with any experience. Then we had 2 deaths within 7 months. 2 very experienced council members that were awesome, that had lots of you know, leadership and mentoring ability, and we lost them both. So it fell on my shoulders as your mayor to spend a little more time training, on the job training, live as they go. Build the plane while you're flying it training on how to be a counselor in the meetings. And I spent a lot of time in the first couple of years explaining policy on the fly, not just for the folks at home, but for my team, so they understand processes. Because you don't learn this stuff. There's no book to read on how to work this out in the municipality. So I leveraged the experience I had, the good and the bad, and tried to model the best possible behaviors and teach everybody how the process was. And did that slow things down? Yes, it did. Did anybody complain or lament the fact that I was teaching as we were going? No. You know, and for it to be thrown at me now, like, I'm a little insulted, but you know, whatever, it's politics, you know. Just follow me on Facebook and you can see people insulting me all day. But you want to wonder why things slow down. It's because there was a lot of teaching time. I don't do a lot of that anymore. You'll notice that pretty much stopped this year because we got people back together. You know, Jazz was the latest guy. And then we had, Howie was the latest, Jazz before that. Quick studies. And, you know, I think we hit the ground running and everybody got working together. So did that slow us down? Yeah. And it was unprecedented to lose 2 counselors, especially really, really, really experienced counselors in a term like this, to the point where people starting to think, what's in the water? By the way, nothing's in the water. We have the best water. But that was a real blow. And did that change how me as a manager managed our meetings? Yes, it did. And I'm quite proud of it, quite frankly, because I think we had a cohesive team. And at the end of the day, I know I'm hopefully not jackpotting myself. I consider myself, I'm no better. I mean, strong mayor powers notwithstanding, forget that stupid thing. But I'm just the C on the team. I'm a player like everybody else. We're the same. I just happen to be the captain. And my job is to do certain things that captains do on the team. But at the end of the day, we are all the same. And my job is to mentor and to help people and guide them in the process and procedures, which is they're not supposed to be side chatter. Right? Not supposed to be. I know you listen to me drone on here, but this is an important thing. So I know Councillor McDonald's always quick to tell me, yes. So I'll try and wrap up here. But I just wanted to address that because, you know, it isn't just the comments I heard tonight. I've read them on, you know, the Facebook group too that I started, ironically, that now doesn't like me anymore. And I don't want to get into an argument on Facebook about these things. I'd rather talk to people face to face. So if you have a problem with my leadership styles, come and see me. I'm probably the most accessible mayor in the province. I feel like I can say that in earnest. Like there's no way not to reach me. Am I against the 2-minute thing? No, I mean, I voted for it. I think I voted for it. I don't remember if I did or not. I did, yeah, to get going. I don't have any problem with that. I'm all about letting people talk. God knows they hit me up everywhere. I'm on the phone, social media, text, email, drop in, hit me up at the beer store, like whatever. I'll talk politics to anybody anywhere. And people listening or watching online know that I answer at 11 p.m., sometimes 12, whatever hour I'm up. Bloop, if a resident asks me a question and I'm awake and my brain's working, I respond to them. So it's not like if we took this away, people can't talk to council. I'm literally on the phone with somebody about their concerns about transit tonight as Councillor Meredith is walking in for the meeting. And I'm fielding questions and answering questions for them before the meeting. And then they showed up to the meeting. Like, I don't know, they must live close by. But there's no accessibility issue with getting a hold of this council, especially this guy with the C on his sweater. So am I guilty of letting the meetings flow a little longer? Yeah. Is that why we're trying to change to 2? No. Look at tonight's meeting. We're going to be done here. I'm going to jinx it by saying this. We're going to be done by 9 o'clock. And we had some heavy stuff to talk about tonight. And I'm doing my usual, been yapping and droning on. You can't just blame the subject matter. It really depends on the content we get, the feedback we get from the community, the volume of things on our agenda, who pulls the stuff from our agenda, because there's a couple of us that tend to pull all the reports all the time. And that can cause a lot of delay, right? Or if you're not coming fully prepared, you don't understand the policies, and there's lots of Q&A time with staff. I don't browbeat you for that. We accept it. But then, don't break us over the head when we go past 10, because like, duh, if we didn't have to talk to 50 reports, we could only have 2, we'd be done quicker. But again, that's the joy of our team. We get along great. We get things done. And where I was going with the captain thing is, if I'm judged on anything through this whole term, never mind all the money that we've made from the community, all the infrastructure we've done, all the amazing stuff we've upgraded, Midland Bay Landing, all the things that we're going to follow through on and get done. My one proud thing I am super proud of is that this team hasn't fractured like other councils. We haven't come to the 5-4 split. The fact that I, as a leader, and that's all falls on a leader, that's the only thing I can own on here, have kept this team together despite our sometimes wild differences of opinion on some matters. That's what I should be judged on, not how much time we spend talking about issues to get to the results that either you like or don't like. If I was arguing for something you really liked, you'd want me to use every damn second of my brain and airtime to convince my peers to agree with what you agree with. However, if I'm arguing equally passionately against something you like, then you want me to shut up. So that's human nature. I get that. But that's the way politics works. I think I'm hitting my 5-minute mark. I'm going to try and police myself. But long and short of it is I support these updates as they stand, knowing that this May deadline for the open mic is going to basically kill it anyway until the new council kicks in. I'm content to have this removed from our procedure policy. And the first thing new council can do is add it back in again. They can do it at the first meeting or second. You're not going to have open mic at the inauguration meeting, right? So it can be added in. So I don't really want to fiddle with this thing and remove stuff. I'd leave it alone. I support the 2 o'clock for the reasons I said. And let's just say remove the open mic thing, not because I'm trying to stifle communications. There's only 2 more meetings until May. It's going to expire anyway. And let's see it come back next term and who's around the table and if there's enough hands to support having it. And I'll tell you right now, not campaigning, if I'm back here next term, I will support having the 2 minutes back on the clock. But I don't see the value in hacking this thing apart now and making changes because it's going to end in two meetings. I'll breathe and I'm done.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you very much. That was like 16 minutes, Mayor Gordon. Anyway, that's not my point. I do want to acknowledge that you do have a lot of knowledge and do often bring to my mind, oh, I didn't know that. And I appreciate that. But just now, I'm very sorry to hear that you plan on continuing to breach. You said, if I'm breaching the procedure bylaws, I'm going to continue doing that. So what I'm wondering, if I may, Madam Chair, direct a question to the mayor, why don't we proceed to change the bylaws to seek your style, your leadership style? Because why do we have these bylaws if you have no intentions of following them? And just one other comment, you said more counselor training. I totally support that. I think we should have a policy review committee or something where we review these procedure bylaws page by page, because I've got my copy, well, my 2022 copy full of question marks, and I'll go through it again. So if you can enlighten me how you want to keep breaching the procedure bylaws, why wouldn't you lead changing them?
You can respond.
That's a fair question. I'm just being honest. Most of the meeting, I don't chair. Right? So I don't chair the majority of the meeting. All of this discussion happens in committee of the whole. I open the meeting and I close the meeting. So, you know, the fact that I'm fine with allowing more conversation, I guess the only time you'll see me egregiously breaching our bylaw, and I'm telling you right now, that's how I roll. That's how I've been all this term. I'll put it to council. I'll put this to council. If this council, and we can't do a vote on it because there's not the motion on the floor, we'll have a conversation after, or you can put a straw poll now. I don't care as long as we're not breaching something. If you guys want me, when I chair the meetings and also deputy mayor, to enforce that 2 times, 5 minutes max, if that's what you really want, put your hand up now and I will commit publicly to doing it. But I just need to see whether that's something you want, because you're right. I did say that I was not going to follow it. So
I'm open to discussing whether that's a feasible bylaw to have. I'm not saying that I want you. So in the future, I definitely think that it should be reviewed. And also in the future, I respectfully ask for you to take into consideration when the conversation is going on and spinning circles and keeping us here past the 4 hours. Would you consider asking whoever's doing this to not, if that makes sense? At least try.
I will, because I'm not going to be obstinate about breaking a rule. There's point of order, which of course you can call, anybody can call. So if you do see things devolving in a circular discussion, I know I have called, not point of order, but I've stopped things where it seems to be like just the same old being rehashed. But if you feel that I'm not, or deputy mayor isn't, because again, I bookend the thing, then call a point of order. There's your easy way. We don't have to change any bylaws. Just use Robert's rules, call the point of order, and say, this is, I feel it's circular. You can call the question too. All of these things exist, but you just got to know to use them. And I've stopped teaching basically this past year. So you have a laminated thing on your desk. Madam Clerk, am I missing anything? Because you're the expert in all this, right?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to the mayor. I just wanted to clarify for council's information. The procedure bylaw isn't something that's presented to stop debate, stop the sharing of information. There are some members of council that have more experience, and it is good to have a healthy debate, and that's why you were elected to the positions that you currently hold. The reason for having the speak to the matter once and then, or twice, and then for clarification, that is if you have one point that you want to make and you want to make a clarification, and then as the conversation goes on, you may think of other things. So it's not stopping you from having that conversation or debate, because again, it would be a new topic that you would be bringing forward. And I think the important part for council is to have these debates and have these discussions amongst yourselves to ensure that you come to a recommendation and that you're representing the residents of the town of Midland. Therefore, they appreciate seeing the debate that does take place. So it's not necessarily that you can only speak once and that's it. It's not to stop the discussion or the debating. It's just we need to have some rules, because otherwise it would be a free-for-all for everyone. So the rule is there. However, there is some flexibility with it. It's not as strict as it may seem in the writing.
Councillor Ball, then Councillor Patel. Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for giving that clarification. And as the mayor stated, debates are important, and whether it takes till 1 a.m, 2 a.m, I'm willing to make that sacrifice and be here. I can be here till, next day, 7 a.m, because that's what I signed up for. And that's what we need to respect, is respect the chair, respect democracy, and sacrifice our time and say, this is taking too long. This is taking, too little time, because debates are important. Sharing ideas important. And I like to think Deputy Mayor Prost for allowing us to speak twice, 3 times, and sidestepping the procedure bylaw because debates are important. And I'd like to thank staff for, sticking with us for till midnight, past midnight, because they share the same values as we do on this council. Thank you.
Okay, council, you've heard the motion. Recorded vote requested.
Is this for the first option of now or for the next council term? There's 2 options.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to Councillor Ball. The recommendation in the staff report is to commence the 2 o'clock for the next meeting, which would be April 8th.
Okay, so as I previously stated, I didn't call the amendment, but I would like to amend it for the council term, the next council term.
Also, if I may ask, Deputy Mayor Prost about amending the open forum as well in the, okay.
Okay, I have the amending motion that council approve option number 2 and implement the 2 p.m. start time at the beginning of the new term of council. I need a seconder to put it on the floor. Councillor McDonald. All in favor? that council approve option number 2 and implement the 2 p.m. start time at the beginning of the new term of council. So not now, the new term. Hands all in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. So before we return to the original motion, Councillor Meredith has an amendment.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Post. So the amendment would be to leave the open forum in and start the regular, the 2 p.m. start instead of the next council meeting when we return after summer break. There,
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Meredith. The vote has already been taken place about the time, so we can't have another motion to, we've already amended the time to 2 o'clock as of April 8th. Well, there was an amending motion to change it to 2 o'clock for the new council. That was defeated, so then it goes back to the recommendation, which is 2 o'clock as of April 8th.
correct. So we're, so through
I
you,
think what
through you,
you're
Deputy
asking,
Mayor.
yeah.
So I wasn't voting for, so the vote on the floor was for next council, right? So I didn't want that, right? So now it reverts back to the original motion, and I'm putting another amended motion to start the proceedings at 2 o'clock in September after summer break, because some councillors here need to give their employer notice, and therefore they're going to be missing council meetings. So they need to give 3 months notice. So I want to keep that voice at the table. So at the same time, I want to move it to 2 o'clock, to 2 o'clock. So that's where I'm at right now. And then also with the open forum to be left in versus striked out. Do that separate. Okay. That's another amended motion. Okay.
My apologies, I misunderstood. So we can deal with the amendment to the time again, and then we'll deal with the open forum after that.
Thank you. 19 minutes.
Okay, I have an amending motion on the floor. That council implement a 2 p.m. start time for regular meetings of council effective with the meeting scheduled for September 2nd, 2026. Can I have a seconder to put it on the floor? Councillor East. Okay, we're open for some discussion. Mayor Gordon.
Okay, so the intention of putting this on now is to prove to the people that think democracy will die that this is doable and that it works just fine in Midland. There's no special needs in Midland that aren't the same as any other, that many municipalities that have daytime meetings. It also alleviates the burden on the staff, which we need to be conscious of. We're the board of governance for this corporation, and these high-priced people sit around here instead of working, and we have to give them lieu time for all this time that they sit here. It's not free. They don't get paid overtime. So the sooner that we implement a change like this, the better. So that's why I wasn't in favor until just pushing it off, because I want to prove to people, or maybe even prove to ourselves that it works, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's an abject failure and we end up walking it back right before near the end, or we let the next council do it. Because again, they can change this. While I feel for your circumstances, Councillor Ball, because believe me, my work is it's not super like it's anyway, I won't get into my circumstances. I want to talk about yours because it seems this is going to impact you disproportionately. I guess what I'm having trouble squaring, and I don't want this to sound confrontational, but it's an awkward thing I got to ask. You, with 2 days notice, attend virtually all of our special meetings, which happen at like 2 in the afternoon, 3 afternoon, 4 in the afternoon. I know you missed, I think, one of our ones we talked about, but you're not absent from those meetings. And you remote into them sometimes because you can't physically be here, but you do participate with 2 days notice. So, we're giving you 3 weeks notice to tell your employer through no fault of your own, and I fully expect you to not vote for this. I'm not asking you to do something you don't believe in. Through no fault of your own, your circumstances and the hours of this side gig have changed, and you need them to adjust your accommodation and change your hours. And if they doubt that and think that you're making it up or playing games, then, I will be more than happy to speak to them, as could CIO here, just to validate that if you need the backup. And I will urge them to give leniency because you're a valued part of the council. So this intention is not to penalize you in the slightest, but I guess I'm having trouble squaring the fact that you are able to attend most, not all, but most of our special meetings with little to no notice, and why this would be a hardship with 3 weeks notice to make change. And so maybe you can just help me understand that.
Sure. I think this is a more personal conversation, but I was in a position to be able to do that in a different contract previously. I'm not in that. I'm counted as a secure staff on the floor currently. And this is a personal conversation we can have. I had the flexibility to not be counted in those security numbers before. I do not now. So, as well as there haven't been many meetings that were that short of notice, like weeks usually. But I had more flexibility in my schedule previously. This is not just about me though. My opinion on the 2 p.m. start has not changed. I don't believe there should be a 2 p.m. start. I think there's been a lot of public outcry speaking the same. They do not want the public start 2 p.m. time either, because also everyone in the public is at work. So this is not for me, although I do have a personal conflict with this issue. This is not why I'm voting for 2 p.m. start to not happen, because I think that it limits who can sit here and I think that it limits who can attend. So I'm not for the 2 p.m. start for those reasons, not for personal reasons.
Okay, it's just for clarity, we're not debating whether or not there should be 2 p.m. start. We're debating an accommodation that Councillor Meredith has advanced on your behalf for you specifically, not the broader public. So that's why I'm speaking to this issue specifically, because it's for you.
Yes, and I appreciate the loyalty that he's doing, but I'm going to take the 2 p.m. start as late as possible because I don't agree with it at all. So I'll be voting to not have it. I'll be voting to have it as, obviously, that is not what everyone else feels like. Everyone else feels like the majority of people want it at a 2 p.m. start. So the longer I can push that for the public, the longer I will. So I'm not for it at all. And I have never stated that I was.
Okay, before I go to Counselor Major, I just want to say that not one person contacted me regarding the 2 p.m. start. Not one. Nobody had any concerns. The gallery is never full unless we're having a public meeting or somebody has a specific interest. And so I don't understand why it matters. And even being here, it's not like you're any more involved with us than you would be if you're watching at home on YouTube at any time of day or night, because there's not a conversation between us. And we are approachable and reachable at any time, but not one person called my number and wanted to talk to me about the change in time.
Can I call a point of order? I should have did it on Jamie Lee because we're not talking about the 2 o'clock, right? We're talking about the September 2nd date. So
Thank you for bringing me back.
yeah, thank you. So I just wanted everybody to, but that 9 o'clock, we've got 9 minutes and we're not going to hit it, but thank you.
Okay, Counselor Major and then Counselor East.
Okay, I'll make this fast. Like, why hang around till September? Like, I came here tonight to vote to have it for April. If you wait till September, we might as well not even bother. Like, that's totally September's just why we'd bother sitting up here wasting everyone's time voting on September when we came to vote on April.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's just call the vote because we're getting off topic here. Just if you don't want it, then that's fine. And I was doing it, as I said, I was doing it to, I'd rather do it right away, but I was concerned about a counselor's scheduling. So, but that's not her goal from what she just stated here. So I'm going to be voting against my motion. That's anyways, I shouldn't have said that, but if we can.
Madam Clerk.
It's unusual to vote against your own motion. Therefore, I would recommend that you withdraw the motion because we haven't called the vote yet. You can, with council's agreement, you can just withdraw your motion.
Or yeah, either or. I was going to use the A word, abstain. So, but I'll withdraw the motion. Thank you.
You can tell we all read the procedure policy in advance of tonight's meeting because we're seeing it all come out here. This is awesome. So we're back to the original motion.
So I have an amended motion. So this is for the 2 o'clock. Yeah. The open forum to remain. Yes, and it dies in May for the election process. Thank you.
Clarification, if I may. Ms. Councillor Meredith, has the open forum been withdrawn on the original motion?
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to Councillor McDonald. The motion that's on the floor is what the recommendation was in the staff report, and the staff report recommended that the open forum be removed from the procedure bylaw.
Right, done full circle. Thank you.
I'm going to do an amendment that we have Jeopardy music playing for the live stream when we have these pauses.
Okay, I have our amending motion, that council maintain the open forum section within the procedure bylaw and that the bylaw also be updated to include wording that references this item. So Councillor Meredith put this on the floor. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ball. Okay, I'll open the floor for discussion. Mayor Gordon.
So this is fine. I support this, but there's nothing in there about that non-legislatively required pause for the election period. Is that just something we're going to do in practice, or do we need to have it written there? Because the rationale for that pause makes perfect sense to me.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through to Mayor Gordon. The pause for the open forum is not a legislative requirement. It's not a rule. It's just something that, as you know, during an election period, there are probably a million things that a clerk has to think of. And that was just one that we discussed in our monthly meetings, that with the open forum, we would have to be careful that someone who has either filed their papers, thinking of filing their nomination papers, cannot use the open forum to campaign. So that would be something that I would have to be aware of when people did come to the mic for open forum, because there really isn't anything concrete that we could use to say, we can put it on pause for May 1st. But there's council can pass the motion to put it on pause, but there's no legislation requiring it. I just wanted to clarify that. So I can add that but if you want it paused, do you want it paused from May 1st right till?
So I get, but a lot of the stuff in our procedure policy is not legislatively required. Some of it is, it's just things we choose to do, right? So if we're making a decision based on what seems like a best practice, to say that from May 1st of an election year. So, you know, the rest of it May 1st, where it's not election year, it runs all year round, but May 1st of an election year to the first formal meeting of council of the new term. That covers the window through the election. And, you know, obviously not the inauguration meeting. That the open forum is excluded from our policy. All we have to do is wrap that one thing that happens every 4 years for that window of time into it, and then it's nice and clean and tidy.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to Mayor Gordon. My apologies. I think I misunderstood what the intent was. I thought you meant put it on pause as of May 1st, and then it's not in there, and then the new council would decide if they wanted open forum. So you would want me to put wording that it be put on pause as of May 1st in an election year, and then it resume with the first meeting of the new term of council. Then I will need a few minutes just to make that amendment.
Right. So why don't we call it a little break? So you're not up, you know, all the eyeballs staring at you. Oh, sorry. It's not even my part of the meeting to call a break, Deputy Mayor. Maybe we do a 10-minute.
Let's do 10 minutes. All right, we're ready to resume. I have an amended motion in front of me that council retain the open forum section within the procedure bylaw, and that the new procedure bylaw be updated to include wording that reflects and formalizes the continued inclusion of the open forum section, and that the open forum section be temporarily paused in an election year effective May 1st until the first regular meeting of council in the new term. So this would be moved by Councillor Meredith and seconded by Mayor Gordon. Quicker. Okay, open the floor for questions and comments on this motion. I read the motion. All in favor? It's unanimous. We will keep the open forum open until May 1st. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm now going to present you with the final motion. So that includes the original motion plus the amendment.
Recorded vote.
I have another motion in front of me, and well, I'll get a mover and seconder in a minute. That staff report CSR 2026-034 comprehensive review of the town's procedure bylaw dated March 18th, 2026 be received, and that council retain the open forum section within the procedure bylaw, and that the new procedure bylaw be updated to include wording that reflects and formalizes the continued inclusion of the open forum section, and that the open forum section be temporarily paused in an election year effective May 1st until the first regular meeting of council in the new term. That the new and updated procedure bylaw for council, committees, and its members be passed and enacted substantially in the form attached as attachment number 3 to this report. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor East and Councillor Major. We have any discussion on this, or we're done? Recorded vote has been requested.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Members of council, you've heard the question. When I call your name, please say yes or no. Deputy Mayor Prost,
Yes.
Councillor McDonald,
No.
Councillor Patel,
Yes.
Councillor East,
Yes.
Councillor Meredith,
Yes.
Councillor Major,
Yes.
Councillor Ball,
No.
and Mayor Gordon.
Yes.
The motion is carried 6-2.
Okay. So moving on to number 18, notices of motion. Do we have any notices of motion? Mayor Gordon.
Thank you. This will be on the meeting in 3 weeks' time. It starts at 2:00. Just carrying on from Councillor Meredith's hijinks there. This resolution comes from Elect Respect. And it's whereas democracy is healthy when everyone is able to participate fully and safely and contribute to the well-being of their community. And whereas we are witnessing the dissolution of our democratic discourse and respectful debate across all levels of government and in neighboring jurisdictions. And whereas Ontario's municipally elected officials are dealing with increasingly hostile, unsafe work environments facing threats and harassment. And whereas social media platforms have exacerbated disrespectful dialogue, negative commentary, and toxic engagement, which disincentives individuals, especially women and candidates from diverse backgrounds, from running for office. And whereas better decisions are made when democracy is respectful and constructive, and when the voices of diverse genders, identities, ethnicities, races, sexual orientation, ages, and abilities are heard and represented around municipal council tables. And whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario's Healthy Democracy Project has identified concerning trends with fewer people voting in local elections and running for municipal office. And whereas in 2024, female elected representatives from across Halton formed a group called HER, Halton Elected Representatives, which pledged to speak out against harassment and negativity in politics and call on elected officials to uphold the highest standards of conduct. And whereas Halton, has launched a campaign called Elect Respect to promote the importance of democracy and safe, inclusive, respectful work environments for all elected officials that encourages individuals to participate in the political process. And whereas on June 5th, 2025, the Canadian Association of Feminist Parliamentarians launched a nonpartisan parliamentary civility pledge to encourage all parliamentarians to commit to end workplace harassment and increase civility on Parliament Hill, modeled after the pledge being developed in Halton by representatives of HER. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Midland Council supports the Elect Respect pledge and commits to treat others with respect in all spaces, public, private, and online, respect and call out harassment, abuse, and personal attacks, focus debate on ideas and policies, not personal attacks, help build and support culture where people of all backgrounds feel safe to run for and hold office, call on relevant authorities to ensure the protection of elected officials who face abuse or threats, and model integrity and respect by holding one another to the highest standards of conduct. And that Midland Town Council calls on the elected officials, organizations, and community members to support the Elect Respect campaign and sign the online petition pledge at www.electrespect.ca, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Ontario's Big City Mayors, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the Office of the Mayor of Burlington, relevant MPs, MPPs, regional police, the Ontario Provincial Police, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Thank you, Mayor Gordon. So moving on to 19, general announcements. And I'm going to just slide this in here because I'm not sure where. I'd like to address the potholes in town. There are many. Some have caused significant damage to vehicles. And I mean, that creates so many problems, right? They don't get to work or they don't get home right away. The cost is a lot. Anyway, I'd like to hear from staff on our procedures and how we're managing the potholes in our town.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, yes, you're not wrong. It's pothole season, and when we see these big winters like we had this year and last year, there's the ground gets saturated, and when that frost and water starts to come out of the ground, these roads break up, and it's there's no way to fully avoid it. So it's a battle that we've been, I'll say, fighting since early February when we had the first thaws, and we'll continue to fight it till the water is fully out of the ground. So we definitely have a process in place. So we've implemented a new road patrol camera that's actually using AI technology to help us pick up on these deficiencies faster, report them, and get them onto work orders faster and repaired. We've just implemented it. Well, we're in, I'll call it Part A implementation. And the neat thing about this camera is it has the ability to put a percentage level of confidence to what it's seeing. Is it detecting a pothole? What size is it? Is it 80% confident that it meets the requirements or not? What depth it is? And it can do all these things, and then it automatically spits out a report and sends that to our supervisors. From there, we currently we're creating a manual list from there, which then goes out to the crews to be repaired. Phase B is a fully integrated approach, which will automatically, so as soon as it meets its checks and balances of requirements, it would automatically work order to the crew to go fix it. So that's the process. So we have road patrol. We have winter road patrol still. That's every day of the week. So we see a certain representative portion of the roads every single day, and we have a requirement to be on every road at least once a week. In terms of minimum maintenance standards and potholes, it's similar to winter maintenance. It's all based on the classification of the road. So we have class 1s through 5. Obviously, class 1 being the higher priority roads, and obviously the tolerances are lower for defects on a road like that. Our highest classification road is a class 2, and the only section of road that's class 2 is King Street between Highway 12 and Yonge Street. Every other major route like Yonge Street and William and Hugo and things like that, those are class 3s. And then we have 4s, and your local roads are 5s. So from a minimum maintenance standpoint I'll use a class 3 as an example, as that's one of the more common busy roads we have. For a pothole to be the size that we'd be considered out of compliance with MMS, it would need to be 1,000 centimeters squared, so 1 square meter, and a depth of at least 8 centimeters deep. And on a class 3 road, we have 7 days to repair that pothole from the time we become aware of the pothole, not the time it necessarily happens. So how do we become aware of it? Our road patrol, somebody calls in, things like that, or another staff member finds it and notifies somebody. We have had a few people make some claims this year that there's been damage. Every single claim that we've investigated, we have found the pothole to be within compliance of MMS. So we've been able to stand our ground on the claims. As you go down that list to a class 4 or even a class 5, which would be the majority of our local roads, we have 30 days to repair that. It's the same size and depth pothole, but we have 30 days to make the repair. So 7 days for class 3, 14 days for class 4, 30 days for a class 5 road before we're deemed out of compliance from an MMS standpoint. If you move to a non-paved road, gravel road, or a shoulder, the depth and sizes just get bigger. Same idea though, the same time frames and stuff like that, but they get larger. So there's a little bit of there's some room in there for us to make sure that we can meet the standards. Now, one of the challenges is right now, as we start to come in this freeze thaw, right now it's below 0 tonight. It could be above 0 tomorrow. We can patch a pothole, and in 2 days that pothole is back because we have to put temporary patch material in. The freeze thaw pushes the patch up and down. We're still plowing the roads. The leading edge of the plow catches the patch and rips it right out. I've seen it on a few potholes that are on my commute home. I keep an eye on them and I see, oh great, they've been patched today, and 2 days later they're wide open again. So it is a battle that we'll just continue to fight. We are trying to get more efficient. We bought a new machine last year. It's called the Mastic machine to help with more permanent pothole patches. We have some certain environmental conditions we have to be in to use it, but the goal is that we can make these patches a little more permanent as we get going. So hopefully that kind of answers your questions. Obviously, if anybody has concerns, they can call in through customer service, the after hours. They can log them themselves online at e-service. Those are the best ways for us to become aware of them. And then we'll dispatch a lead hand or a supervisor there to have a look at it. And then, from a legal perspective, we're now aware of it at that point, right? And then that's where the clock starts ticking from there for us to fix it. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. If you have any more, I'm happy to try to answer them.
I have two really quick, they should be quick answers. What would Sunny, or is it Sunny, it's Harborview. What class would that road be?
If you give me a few minutes, I can find the exact classification. I would assume it's, off the top of my head, it would be a class 3 at the highest, if not a class 4.
Okay, so that means, because it's a very well-used road, right? So that means it's up high on the list, or no?
Yeah, if you give me a few minutes, I'll see if I can confirm that, or I can
Okay.
get back to you at a later date.
Get back to me.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, when it's a reoccurring large pothole, even if it's within the standards, but it's there, and like the guys out there patrolling, is there anything they can do to make people aware? Like, could it be a pylon, or could it be fencing, or something so that people kind of know it's coming up?
That would have to be a case-by-case basis. Obviously, if there was an extreme example where it was significantly out of compliance, we would have to do our due diligence to protect the municipality. That due diligence could vary depending on the severity, just like at a construction site, right? You have traffic control in place to protect people. If it was just like, it all depends, right? We couldn't necessarily put a pylon on it if it's in the middle of the road, because then people will try to dodge and weave around the pylons, and that could expose us in other ways. So it's definitely something that we keep an eye on, and it's something that I'm working with our guys to make sure that we don't walk by these things, and we fix what we can fix while we're there. We don't wait till a pothole is out of compliance to fix it. If we find one earlier and we're dispatched out to do potholes, we're going to do everything that we can find. So I don't want you to, take that we won't touch it until it's over 1,000 square meters and 8 centimeters deep. If we're aware of a problem pothole, it'll be dealt with. Hopefully before that, the goal is to be fully in compliance all the time. But obviously there's some flexibility if needed.
Okay, well, that's actually great to hear, moving forward, that the town is being even more diligent in what they're required to do. And thank you. And I'll probably reach out to you for a little more information, and the public can as well. And when the public sees a pothole, I know when you're driving home from work, the last time you see a big one or you kind of nick it and you got lucky, going online to report it is really important. Even though you're tired and you get in and you have 100 things to do, if at some point you can report it, then it's there and it might help save the next person. Councillor Major.
I just want to thank Mayor Gordon, Mayor Ralston. That was pretty cool when Kings and the Flyers played off, to see the two mayors going back and forth. And I think being online like that, it got probably a lot more interest, and the crowds were good for both teams. And the junior C teams, like the last day of the year, you're starting to raise money to start the next year. So it was good to see both rinks with lots of people, and the spirit between the two mayors was awesome. So thanks, guys.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sobel, for saying we're striving for more than the minimum standard. That seems very minimum. So very minimal standard we're striving for. So I'm glad to see our town is striving above that, because on Hugel, I've been feeling like I'm competing in a Mario Kart race, which leads me into my announcement that the Midland Cultural Center, with funds that we've offered them through our budget process this year, has partnered with Quest, has partnered with Event Horizon Hobbies Store, as well as the Canadian Museum of Water, to have a Mario Kart competition this this Saturday. Registration's at 9:30 and the event goes until 4, and it's for ages 5 and up. They have different age categories. There's been prizes donated, as well as they're going to have minifigures, and they're going to have board game demos. So it sounds like a really fun day. I'm glad to see. I know when we were up here at the very beginning of our term, we had concerns that the Midland Cultural Center wasn't accessible to all. And I think they've really taken that community spirit and they've really ran with it. And I'm really excited to see this event happen for all of the kids in our community and a great end to March break. So looking forward to seeing everyone there.
Do we have any other announcements? Mayor Gordon.
I'd be remiss if I didn't call out the fact that using the announcements section to ask questions of staff is verboten according to our procedure policy. And I've done it many times. But anyway, because we're on procedure policy, I don't want people to know I'm alive to it. That was a bad dog, bad. So anyway, suffice to say, I get it and I'm glad because otherwise we'd be waiting 3 more weeks to talk about this. I do want to thank staff. At some point, we do need to have a conversation, whether it's something that staff initiated or comes by motion, to talk about minimum maintenance standards. There's a really widespread belief or feeling in our community with the past 2 horrible winters we've had that minimum maintenance standards is not a defendable standard to people. They feel like we're doing the bare minimum, which I guess legally we are, but most of the time we exceed it. But of course, there are plenty of times where we don't, like horrible winters like this one and last one, and let's hope not next one. But I think it would be a good conversation to have, perhaps just a mental note for you, Mr. Sobel, that let's talk about our scorecard on minimum maintenance standards, especially around snow clearance, because we are going to have to eventually talk about how badly our budget's in the hole. I'm assuming it is. How many, what are we up to, 9,000 dump truck loads, tandem loads of snow for Mount St. Midland? I don't know, but it would be great to have a debriefing and at the same time, maybe do a little high level talk about minimum maintenance standards, why they exist, how we normally exceed them, and room for getting better. Because nobody's ever content with, no matter what I say about it, they just hate the snow. Post-traumatic snow disorder is a thing. And God knows when I saw it fluffy and coming down earlier this week, I was feeling it too. So I appreciate you taking time and, answering those questions during the announcement section, which is not supposed to happen, but I wasn't going to stop you, but I'm just saying I'm owning it because it's true. And I wanted to call out to Councillor Major because as much fun as I had with the jersey contest between the Kings and the Flyers, that wouldn't have happened without Councillor Major's idea. Like he planted the seed, I ran with it, but this was his baby. So, it was a big success, got tons of views online, like thousands and thousands of views on videos. I wish it was monetized. I could put some money back in the kitty here, but I give it to the Flyers and the Kings. But anyway, it was a really good, fun thing to do. I decided not to do it for the second round, perhaps wisely, but in talking to Clearview Mayor, he was wanting to save all his mojo for what he was anticipating was going to be their battle with Alliston, 2 of the strongest teams in the league. So I think that's coming to pass. But it was a lot of fun getting the Old Town hockey rivalry between Midland and Penetang. A lot of people loved it. I got actually 0 snotty comments. Like for the first time ever, I got nothing but positives, and that was refreshing. So we need to do more of those things. Because even today, on a couple of things I posted about the elect respect, I got a litany of very disrespectful comments to the point where I had to turn them off and delete it. And like, oh my God, I can't believe we're being disrespectful on a post about not being disrespectful. But that's the world we live in online. So your inspiration to run that campaign and to have it online and elicit nothing but joy and happiness is, it warmed the cockles of my heart.
And Mayor Ralston was awesome with it too. Like to see the two he's at each barn, and I know the crowds are good. And like I say, anyone that runs a junior team knows the last day of the year is the first day to start raising money. So to have the 2 teams play and go to 7 games, both rinks or both teams should have a little bit 8. Well, we won't bother getting into the refereeing, but anyways, just to have them that they made, put money in the bank. So starting next year, it's going to be better for them. But thanks to you and Mayor Ralston for jumping aboard and having fun with it.
Councillor East.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to maybe get your help as well. challenging some other municipalities for the Big Brothers and Big Sisters of North Simcoe Bowl for Kids' Sake. And that's going to be Friday, April 10th, Saturday, April 11th. They're looking for anybody that would like to put teams together. 100% of the proceeds go back to the children and all the structured development that they have. But I did have and Stefan reach out and see if maybe we could get your help, Mayor Gordon, on board with challenging some other municipalities against us. So yeah, we don't have that quite yet. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. Isn't there a Warden's Bondsfield here in Midland being held soon?
If you want to watch me feel it
Curling Bondsfield. That's a week Friday, and some of us are going to. I'm wearing my bike helmet on the ice. Are participating in the County of Simcoe Warden's Curling Bondsfield a week Friday. That's
Councillor Meredith, is that your hand up?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. I want to thank council for passing, well, not pulling the report for discussion, but for the Sandy Mason Friends Lawn Bowling Charity. So funds go to for hospice, Huronia. Thank you for every year they raise in excess of $10,000, and it's on July 18th, 2026. Usually put a team in, so if other councilors want to put a team in, then we appreciate it. Fun afternoon, Saturday afternoon, and it's for a good cause for hospice, Huronia. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands up with announcements. I will head to the next motion. That the Committee of the Whole rise and report. It's moved by Councillor Major and seconded by Councillor East. All in favor? That's carried. Mayor Gordon.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moved by Councillor Meredith, seconded by Councillor Ball. The recommendations of the Committee of the Whole for the meeting of March 18th, 2026 be adopted as resolutions of council. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Next, moved by Councillor Patel, seconded by Councillor McDonald. And there's a list here. The following bylaws. Bylaw 2026-7, license and regulate hawkers and peddlers, event vendors, buskers, farmers markets, food vendors within the town of Midland, and to repeal bylaw 2005-95, bylaw 2026-9, amend bylaw 2025-72, being a bylaw to establish and approve the fees and charges of the town of Midland, bylaw 2026-11, appoint a municipal law enforcement officer / property standards officer for the purpose of enforcing municipal bylaws within the town of Midland, bylaw 2026-12, regulate the placement and use of election signs, and to repeal bylaw 2011-80. Bylaw 2026-13, require the conveyance of land for park or other public recreation purposes as a condition of the development or redevelopment of land within the town of Midland, or the payment of money in lieu of such conveyance pursuant to the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13 as amended, and to repeal bylaw 90-64, parkland dedication bylaw. Bylaw 2026-14, provide rules governing the proceedings of its council committees, and its members' conduct, and to repeal bylaw 2022-2 as amended. And bylaw 2026-15, provide policies for the procurement of goods, services, and construction, and to repeal bylaw 2024-58 as amended, be passed and enacted. Council, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Next, moved by Deputy Mayor Pro, seconded by Councillor Ball, that the bylaw 2026-16, being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of the regular council meeting with closed session held March 18, 2026, be passed and enacted. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. And last but not least, moved by Councillor Patel, seconded by Councillor Major, that this regular meeting of council with closed session adjourn at 9:41 p.m. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.